What's up, everyone? It is Friday motherfucking morning. Yeah, busy week. Wrecked my van, if you didn't see that on Instagram. Yeah, I'm a piece of shit. It's all I can say. I just keep fucking up. Anyway, yeah, we've been trying to catch up, man. We're getting caught up. We're getting definitely caught up on these helmets, man, for sure. I've been trying to bang those things out. I got to take a week off of the helmets, though, and get back on some of the motorcycle projects to not fall behind on those. And, and also, man, I think we got a couple podcasts coming through. I think my buddy Zombie Mike's going to come up from Houston, and we're going to shoot the shit again, and some more good ones, too, coming your way. But this new direction, not new direction, but this new idea that's not necessarily new. I don't know why I'm even saying new, but just the podcast that you're going to hear today is basically my good friend Adam, who recently went on a bike trip. He rode, I believe, solo. We'll find out during the podcast, but he rode out to California. He lives here local to Dallas-Fort Worth. We were fortunate to be able to paint his Dyna. It's probably one of the first Dynas I ever painted, and it was just cool, man. He jumped on the bike, did a trip, and I was watching his story on Instagram, and I felt like maybe some people feel like when they watched, me and my friends do it. So I wanted to know more about his trip and his experiences and stuff like that. So I thought of this, maybe doing a podcast or doing a series of podcasts, or from here on out, just doing podcasts with people that I know have done trips and try to catch them in a recently being back from the trip, so that they can tell you their thought process and their story of why they went on the trip, what motivated them to go on the trip, some of the experiences on the trip, how they kind of packed out their bikes, what was the, just all the different, scenarios, because we're here at the Fast Life Garage. We're very, I don't know what the right word is. I don't have Jesse here to give me his thesaurus, but we like to support that concept of riding and going long distance. And so being able to let you guys that may be interested in that hear people's stories and thoughts on the trips and on why they did it and what it was like and would they do it again and just all this different shit. I feel like it's good content. I think that you're going to enjoy it. So I'm actually recording this intro before Adam gets here. It's 7 a.m. Friday morning. So I probably won't release this till tonight, so you'll probably be hearing this Saturday if you listen to it over the weekend. I know that our schedule's all fucked up, but, I'm just trying to get you some content. I felt bad last month. We only were able to put out 3 podcasts. It was kind of a pain in the ass, the heat here in Texas. With me moving out of my house into this apartment closer to downtown Dallas, I don't have a garage to podcast in, and the shop is ungodly hot during the day. So that's why I'm here early this morning, and Adam's supposed to be here in about an hour, and we're going to try to knock this podcast out before the heat kicks in here in this hot-ass state of Texas. So, yeah, man. Hope all you guys are doing good, and thanks for staying in with us, through our slow times. I mean, I guess we gave you a shit ton of podcasts in May, so I guess June was kind of like our, break, if that's what you want to call it. Anyway, as always, this podcast is going to be brought to you by Texas Performance MC. Obviously, as in ever since the first day we did this podcast, Mark has been supporting this podcast and supporting this direction that I've been going. He's a great friend of mine. He is actually where I was headed to this week to go see when I wrecked my van. So thanks, Mark. I'm just playing. But no, check him out, man. He's got a dope shop, man. He's got AC in it. So if you're just out riding and you want to stop by and, before you hit 1431 there in Northwest Austin, you want to go stop in and see what he's got laying around in stock, or maybe see what he thinks about what you should do to your bike, you should stop in, talk to Mark, soak up that AC, and just get to know the guy, man. He's a good friend to have. He's a good number to have in your phone. So check him out on Instagram at Texas Performance MC. Also on the web, the same thing, texasperformancemc.com. Yeah, don't fuck around. Check him out. Also, as always, Paint Huffer Metal Flake. Yeah, fucking flaky, man. I love those dudes. It's not the best way to put it. But No, man, Paint Huffer Metal Flake, man, I don't know where I'd be without this guy. I don't know where our shop would be without this guy. I mean, almost everything that we do out of this shop has a bit of their product on it, and for the most part, their products accentuate the work that we do. So without their products underneath it, my shit would be weak as fuck, if you don't think it is already. But yeah, man, their flakes are awesome, man. I love the fact that you can buy them in large quantities as well. If you're someone like me who's going through silver flake like lacquer thinner, if you're used to paint terminology and stuff like that, or what goes on in shops. But I love this shit. And actually, me and FXR Mike, I was at his house yesterday. We were talking, and he took a spill while out at the FXR jam, and we were talking about how we were going to repaint his R4, and he had a good idea about doing a flame job, and he probably mad at me for telling everybody what he wants to do on this job, but he wanted to use the birch white that's real common on the old FXRs and stuff like that, and then in the early 90s and late 80s Harley Davidson lines. But I know for a fact that Paint Huffer has some dope ass pearls that I think would make that birch white pop like a motherfucker. So I'm really excited to do that bike, and I'm really excited to use some of the pearls from Paint Huffer Metal Flake. I haven't had a chance yet. I've been trying to work them into like some of the jobs, but I haven't really played with pearls in this new style of paint work that I've been doing these last couple of years as much as, say, I used to do in the bagger work. So implementing them in and getting the flow with the rest of the graphics and how to do artwork on top of it to make it pop. It's just something I'm trying to teach myself. So I'm just thankful that I have a guy like Brian over there helping me, giving me the products and being there to give me the type of products that I need and having the resources that he has to make all this shit look cool. So anyway, check those guys out. Paint Huffer Metal Flake on IG, painthuffer.com. He has a lot of shit. Man, like I said, if you're in I think it's Tempe area, you need to go check out his shop. He has a lot of custom paint needs, or a lot of things that custom painters need in his shop. So check him out. Support him, order flake from him, get it, just try it out. You know what I mean? Sorry, it's early. Also, this podcast is brought to you by Hard Drive, American V-Twin products. I don't know if I would call them the new guys on the block, but they're definitely, in the parts game, in your drag and your tucker and all these type of things, they're owned by WPS. Hard Drive is basically, another option and a different line of products, and you can, for the most part, get through drag and tucker. So, going through Hard Drive, you're going to get companies like Sawicki and fuck, man, I need to open the book and check it out. But there's quite a bit of people in here. I've already kind of skimmed through it to kind of do the research and see what they have and who they sell. I know that they got my boy Paul from Lindahl in there, who, is my number one man when it comes to wheels and brakes and all that type of shit. But I mean, their book's awesome. If you're a shop and you don't have Hard Drive, I mean, I would do it just because, there's lots of people, there's lots of, not people, but lots of products in here that some of us, Dyna kids and FXR guys, and we're going to want to be able to get our hands on, instead of when you have these guys walking in your shop and you're like, oh, I want a Sawicki pipe, and you're like Googling Sawicki because you're not hip to the game, just get down with Hard Drive and you'll be able to have all this shit at your fingertips, So check them out. Let me see what I think I said it on the last podcast. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at this. So. But what is the Instagram? 1 second. All right, Hard Drive Parts on Instagram, all one word, just like I like it. I have no service in my shop, so I'm gonna take a hard time to get you the website to check it out. Maybe I can find it in the book. Okay, hdvtwin.com. That's the one. That's where you want to go at if you want to become a dealer. Dealer at hdvtwin.com. Check those guys out. They're fucking awesome, man. My good friend Zombie Mike is the one that's set us up with Hard Drive so that we can, so that they could be a sponsor of this podcast. And he's going to be on the podcast soon, so he'll be able to tell you more about it, more about him getting into Hard Drive and what his thoughts are. And he's an honest dude, and I can't wait for you to hear him. So I think that maybe you're going to dig that podcast. So be on the lookout for that shit. And like I said, this podcast, man, I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but hopefully by the time I release it, you'll be able to see it. So what I'm going to do is, when I release these podcasts, it'll still be in order with like the number 30, number 31, number 32. but it's going to have like the name of this type of podcast, the name of the person, and number in chronological order, I guess is the right way you say it, of all the podcasts releasing. So that way, if you know you're not used to, if you haven't listened to all our podcasts, but you really dig the ones about, you know, people taking trips and going on rides, then you'll be able to just scroll down on the iTunes, YouTube, and all the other sources you listen to this podcast and catch these style podcasts. So I'm really excited about doing these, and I know it's not like some breakthrough thought, but it kind of feels like it right now. So I'm super excited to have this conversation. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for being here with us, as always.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
Cool. It's already going.
You got your Monster?
Yeah.
Way to start the morning. You can't leave without coffee.
Yeah, I need that caffeine, man. I don't, usually, it's only been a while since I started waking up this early.
I was kind of surprised when you're like, oh, I'm hitting the shop like 6, 7. You don't seem like a 6, 7 kind of guy.
No, I definitely not. But the reason I started doing it is because of this fucking heat.
You got to beat this heat.
Dude, I get here about, like Tuesday nights, I get a little drunk after the bike night.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to wake up, so I'll get here at 8 or 9. But every other day this week, man, it's like 6:30, 7, you know, at the latest, and you get like good 4 solid hours of cool weather working. Nobody's calling you, no fucking, you know, people trying to sell you merchant services and shit like that. So it gets a lot easier to do stuff. So,
well, that and I mean, by what, noon, 1 o'clock? I mean, you're just baked out. Depending on where the sun hits on your shop,
yeah,
you're just done.
It also becomes easier to go do all my errands at that time, you know, because whether it's picking up parts, dropping them off, getting, you know, taking shit to ship it, or whatever, doing it around lunch is a lot easier to move around. There's less traffic and all that kind of crap. So I dig it. I don't think I'm going to do it forever. When it starts getting cold, then I'm going to wait till the middle of the day when
it's nice
warm.
Sleeping on those days.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, let's start talking about your trip. How was how did it all come about, like, in your mind?
Well, it came from last year watching you. You know what I mean? Like, and doing that show, and I was like, man, I was so jealous. I didn't plan it to begin the year with, so I didn't have the vacation time from work to really step out like that. And if I go down there, I want to spend a little time. I don't want to just blast down there for 3 days and make it miserable. Then it's not, you know what I mean? Like, then the ride, you're missing out on the ride and getting some of the stops, and you're getting down there and sitting around, and then you're just blasting back. So I really want to have some time to do it. So fast forward, I decided that after your trip, to make the time. So I thought about it. I put the vacation down. I got the vacation. And then I was really planning on going to that Born Free show. And I just, as the year progressed, I started looking at it, and I didn't want to go sit at a show. I was really going to miss out on some riding.
A day of riding in California, which
especially
is beautiful.
Out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there was nothing... Financially, what am I going to do? Go out and spend a bunch of money at that show? Because there's going to be a bunch of stuff I'm going to want. So like,
and you have to figure out how to get it home.
Right? So, I mean, that was just a no-go there. So as I got closer and closer, I couldn't make up my mind on, like, where to go until finally, like, it came around. I was about a week out, and I decided I want to go up to Canada, and I looked at my passport, and I was like, well, that just expired. Like, literally, like, a month ago expired. I'm like, well, I guess
that would have been an epic-ass trip, though.
I'm going to do that. I want to shoot... I want to shoot north from here and then maybe go west or vice versa. You know what I mean?
think when I was looking at going up there last year for that, you know, MJK Dyna thing, if you like cut up kind of like probably the way you went through Colorado, like going up 287 from Dallas into New Mexico and then 25 north through Cheyenne and all that shit.
Right.
It's a nice route straight into Canada. You know what I mean? And from all the stuff I was looking...
I think if you keep going north like that, you'll come up on... You push west a little bit, you'll hit Yellowstone, which I really want to do also.
That's what I was wanting to do, too. Yeah.
I was going to do that this trip, but it was rained out.
Out of the way. Oh, it was rained out?
It was rained out. It wasn't out of the way. It was... Because I was sitting... my first stop was in Pueblo. But I didn't know where I was going to go day to day.
Yeah.
I would sit down...
It's kind of a cool, like, way to do it, you know?
Thank God for phones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the GPS, I can watch the weather. I can look at a map. I'd pull into a campsite, and, I mean, all these KOAs, like, I remember looking at KOAs like, you're an idiot, like, camping in those things. Like, you're just outside of town. Like, who really, like, that's not camping. Man, on the reverse side, when you don't want to be out in the forest and I'm just blast through the town.
Yeah.
That's a cheap hotel right there. Just sleep on the ground, bring my tent with me. A lot of them Wi-Fi. I mean, they're
Nice.
set up. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it give you a free Wi-Fi for it. Clean bathrooms and showers, and it's all part of the $26 to sleep on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, that's the affordable way to make it around.
Yeah, I think I need to try that next time because I'm such a planner that it kind of ruins the trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you plan it so much. Like, fuck, we have reservations at this
You gotta
campsite.
get there.
We have reservations at, like, when we go to Vegas, we'd have a nice hotel.
Right.
And so it's like we'd have all these reservations places, and like you can't go off the fly off the seat of your pants. You have to, you know.
When I've done the 1,000 a day and done that once or twice as like a trip. I've never done like a full like 2 weeks like just riding. So I didn't know how far I could push a day, how far I wanted to push, what was going to come up. Maybe I found something. I just want to stay there for the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't know, and I didn't know this part of the country. I've driven through all of it, but I've never really stopped in it and enjoyed it. So I just wanted to keep riding and then figure out where I was at and decide there on the fly. Like, I guess this is it for the day. You know what I mean? Because there's some days you want to ride, the riding's great and you're riding, 8 hours. And there's other days like where 5 hours is a hard push. You know what I mean? Like you got up a little bit later, you slept in, you had a big breakfast, you had a big lunch, or you know what I mean? Like you found a cool spot and wanted to hang out there a little bit longer. It was really just kind of cool just sitting down and not having any plans where to go. No destination other than like I got 2 weeks total. 14 days, make it a full circle or come back the same route. Figure it out as I go.
Yeah, I always have a hard time doing the same route back. I feel even when I drive to California to deliver parts,
Right.
it's like 40 out there, 10 home. Even though I fucking hate riding down 10 or driving down
See,
it.
and that's the thing. Like, if I would have done it again, maybe I would have went further north and come back further north than I did
Come
the first
down
time.
40.
But coming down through Phoenix and stuff like that, oh man, that was rough. That was brutal this time of year.
Yeah.
I knew it was like 112. I left Vegas. It was 91 degrees at midnight.
It's
You know what I
just
mean?
so
Like,
wild, man.
But and the crazy thing is out there in the desert, people don't know about the desert. You get these pockets that are real windy or real cold. I mean, I went from a T-shirt when I left Vegas to, man, I was hitting these pockets of cold to where, man, I got to put my flannel on. To where like all of a sudden I've got my flannel and my jacket on because like it just dropped out of nowhere. Like I just hit this valley that was just freezing cold out there.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of climatized to what's going on out there. So I mean, any bit of cold.
It's really hard. I mean, they call it the High Plains Desert, where it's like during the day it's scorching hot, and at night it'll drop down to the 40s or 30s. And when you're trying to plan it, like the first time I ever drove to California, I totally fucked up. It was April. It felt great in Texas all day, all night. But we left here. We didn't want to pack too heavy, so we weren't trying to take leather jackets and all that shit. Man, we made it to Abilene. And we were freezing our fucking balls off. We ended up stopping at a McDonald's and just sleeping for 3 hours because we always left super early in the morning.
Right.
So between the freezing cold, trying to stay warm on the bikes, and the being up early, we didn't make it very far.
Yeah, it's almost a waste of time to leave that early because then you hit these points where you're like, you're just done. You can't do it.
Yeah. See, we went to a couple years back. The last couple of years, we went to Sturgis. Leaving in August though. And being north, taking 287, because we'd always go up to Colorado to Sturgis. It's like we could leave and not wear just T-shirts and be fine. It might get a little cool, but it wasn't dropping into the 40s,
Right.
But so what was the so you started planning this trip? What was the was it a pain in the ass to get the vacation time? How long did you have to wait for that?
No, with my job, I gotta plan a year ahead. So
Damn.
come like October, I'll be planning for the next year. So that's why, like, I'm totally jealous of you guys that just are able to drop it. You're like, oh shit, I heard about this show. Like, let's roll out. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta have if I don't have the days off, which I don't generally get weekends off. I'm off during the week. I gotta plan ahead to have any amount of 4 day off to do it. So I planned a year ahead that I knew I was going to take those 2 weeks, and it was creeping up on me out of nowhere, and I just really was like, I wasn't feeling the show. I knew that I wasn't going to go to that, but I really couldn't figure out what direction. I really probably until like 2-3 days before, I didn't know if I was going to go east or west. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was just like, and then it lined up with my kid. My kid's out in California going to college out there, so she was going to be able to have the time off from work and everything. So I'm like, all right. So really, there was only there was 2 spots: seeing my kid, and then meeting up with the FXR division.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been working with them trying to get a crash bar done, and on the dyno with lowers, there's nobody right now making a crash bar for it.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I'd been talking to them, trying to hook something up on direct messaging them, trying to. I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to fucking score some parts for cheap. You know what I mean? Like, they're not doing it, and I noticed, like, oh, we've got it, but they have no pictures on a bike. So I'm throwing my bike up, like, hey, I'll fucking take all the pictures you want.
Yeah, all over the country.
Yeah. So they ended up, hey, I told them I was coming through there. They said, you riding, you driving? I said, I'm riding. They're like, all right, if you bring your bike through, we'll mock it all up, get it all set up and everything. We'll take care of you. I'm like, all right. So, but they were going to Born Free, and they weren't going to be back until like the next Wednesday. So I had a small, I guess, clock ticking for when I needed to be in Phoenix for the following Wednesday. So that was really my only kind of destination and timelines that I had to meet, which is cool. Meeting up with my kid, I spent a couple days there, and then I spent a couple of days out there in Phoenix with those guys. But every other place was like day to day,
What was the when you decided to take this trip and you left, like the route you took? What was the route? So you went like from leaving here. What was your first stop? You said Pueblo, and that's Colorado.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I was just in Pueblo. That was the first stop. I think I was like 12 hours or something like that the first day, like just trying to get through Texas heat and everything.
Yeah. So what time did you leave?
I wanted to leave at 4. I think I ended up leaving at 6.
Yeah, that's not too bad though.
No, it was good.
You gain an hour too as soon as you cross in.
I wasn't calculating that stuff, and I was watching time, and I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it feels great going west, but when you come east, you're like, fuck,
losing time in the day.
Yeah.
So I decided to go up. Everybody was telling me to take 287, and I was like, all right. I didn't know.
It's boring.
Yeah,
but it's like I've always tell people, it's like there's a couple highways. We're in Dallas, and everything that you want to ride is maybe not everything, but a lot of the good like life-changing rides are 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
So it's like you just jump on 20, jump on 287, jump on 35, go north. All these different directions. I mean, if you go east, you can hit some nice stuff in Arkansas, but
Texas is so flat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking the ride is everything outside of Texas. So what's going to get me out of here the fastest so I can get to the next spot? Better weather, better roads. So I took 287. And kind of planning this, it's different when you're in your area and taking back roads and looking on a map and you're like, oh, that's this back road, and you kind of know some places along it. It's different when you're looking at some of the back roads in the other states you've never been.
Yeah.
How far is a gas station?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? What's going to be out there if something goes wrong? What's the cell reception out there? Like, how screwed am I? Because I'm just by myself. There's no, I'm not with a group of buddies where I break down, somebody can roll out and, go fetch something.
Were you like really just excited about doing it by yourself? Like, that's another thing. Like, I want to do a trip like that alone.
Yeah.
Just for the, just like to be able to gather myself.
There was no pressure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes when you're going with other people where I want to quit, you want to push through that place because you want to get to the next place, or you still got a little gas in your tank, you know what I mean, mentally, that you want to push on. To me, it was nice to be able to do it by myself. There was no, I'm looking tomorrow to go to this spot, and really when I wake up, I'm not feeling it. Or halfway through the day, like, I'm done for the day. You know what I mean? Let's sit down, have some beers here. Yeah. So I wasn't working off anybody else's agenda, regardless of how friendly you are with people. It's just when you're done, you're done. You know what I mean? Like, you're able to do your own thing.
Yeah.
So I could veer off the path anywhere I wanted, which was really nice. You know what I mean? There was any direction I wanted to go at any time, I could choose to do something different. So it was nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that. When I talked about it a lot on here, but when I went on to the Tennessee to the hot bike tour, I did that solo. It was like my first 1,000-mile ride alone, and I dug it the first day, and I dug it the next day. The only time I felt lonely was when I was at like hot bike tour, and all the other shops and people that were there all had like all their homies there,
right?
And I'm just kind of like chilling on a wall. Just hanging out, because
it's a big event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
if I would have kept riding and stayed away from like the actual show,
right,
would have totally been, I would have never felt like had that lonely feeling, Yeah,
I mean, I'm stopping at bars and cool restaurants that people are, just the locals. I stop somewhere and they're, hey, what's there to eat in this area? They'll tell you about something cool that's a local spot. You know what I mean? It's cool to hit the things that are off the map that the locals are going to tell you about. You're doing it by yourself. You sit there as long as you want. Short, you know what I mean? There were some times I didn't even take my helmet off, and it's like gas up onto the next spot. There's other times where I'm like, I'm just gonna sit down and I'm gonna take a nap, find the park bench, and just that's it.
Yeah, that's the best. Like that's exactly the deal. Like, because even when I took that solo trip to Tennessee, I was still pushing an agenda. I still had plans to get to this point.
Right.
You know, and even though, because also I was trying to squeeze getting there for the start of the hot bike tour and getting home, but I just need to do a trip that's not related to anything business wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's strictly just the enjoyment of the ride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not bad to
I just always try to do both. It's not the best concept to have in the world, but I've always said, like, for me, I'm just not in a point in my life financially to be able to take money and go on a fucking cruise.
Right.
You know, so I look at, like, my enjoyment is riding bikes and doing trips. And usually, like, say, when we would go to California, I'd fly my wife out there, and then we'd hang out in California. But I get to have my fun there and back, you know?
Right.
So it's like, I try to, like, justify it by there being something like a Born Free or a hot bike tour or Sturgis on the way.
Well, if you can do this podcast, you know what I mean? Like, you're out there and you pack a little bit of this, and then on the way you stop and meet up with somebody and do one. Now you've just made some type of financial gain on it to where it's not just a complete, like, you're not just
and
out there blowing
that's what
money.
I want to do again, you know? And, I've been talking about all the setbacks I've been having. I feel like my setbacks are like a path-correcting thing. Like, the universe is telling me, like, hey, you know, you're going this way. You need to do it this way. And so it's making me have to reevaluate all my decisions and all my directions.
I think the reevaluation is there. You know what I mean? Because it could be just a speed bump to make you quit, or does that give you the inspiration to push on and push harder? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That knockdown sometimes you need, but is it the knockdown to knock you in a different direction? Is that what you needed? Or did you need the knockdown to kind of sit you down and be like, fuck, I really need to focus on this and hit it hard? You know what I mean?
It's the same thing. It's like everybody, you know, that listens to this hears me, like, one week I'm trying to build this big Walmart fucking bike shop, and then next week I just want to paint helmets in a garage alone by myself. And so it's like I'm real conflicted with the decisions on where to take the business and where to take my personal, you know, how I want to do things. And I feel like my setbacks is like when I decide, like, okay, I'm doing it this way. And then I feel like a setback has kind of made it to where that wasn't obtainable. You know what I mean? Or that the decision was not obtainable or within reach at all. And so I'm like, well, this one is. You know, now it took that one out of the equation, and this one's still in the equation. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm supposed to be going this way or some shit. But I might be thinking too hard into it as well.
A little bit, you know, it just could be the challenge to spark you to push harder through it. You know what I mean? Like, if it came too easy, would it really be worth it? We'd all have it. You know what I mean?
You know, last year, like you said, you know, that trip was an amazing trip. We had a few things that set us back, but, you know, it was also all the setbacks with the bike problems that I had. They were problems that I had to figure out from working on an Evo. I didn't know shit about Evo. So when I put a lot of that together, I just didn't know how to do it. I figured it out on the highway. So that was a huge thing, but also I enjoyed it, you know, because every time we had a huge setback, it got back on the road. You know, I never had to call a tow truck. I never, you know, it sucked. And the people that went with me, I'm sure, were just over it. But, you know, I rode it there and back. 100%.
You learned a lot of valuable lessons about stuff you didn't know, and now you know more about them. Yeah. I work so much and I just didn't grow up in the world. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm all about it. But turning wrenches, like, I don't always have the patience for it. And really, like, it finally comes down to that time. I finally have that vacation time, you know what I mean? To where, like, I don't want to sit down and wrench at all. Like, my whole point is to really just get out there and ride. So,
enjoy it.
I mean, Daryl's Custom Cycles really, like,
for sure.
He built this bike so solid, you know what I mean? From ground up to where there wasn't a single problem.
Dude,
I never hiccuped the entire time.
Ever since the very first trip I've ever taken on my bagger, I remember the first trip I ever took, I finished building my bagger, and I had primary issues, lo and behold. I guess me and primaries don't work out too well. But, I ended up, me and Daryl, man, he walked me through on the phone how to fix the issue. I was out in Tempe, Arizona, you know.
He's a great guy.
He's always been the guy to help. Hell, I just borrowed a fucking cam chain tool to get my cams, or a cam bearing tool, so... He's always been a good dude. He's helped you out here in Dallas. I've been trying to get him to get on the podcast too. He'll talk your ass off too, but you know, he's a little more reserved, older guy. So I don't know.
He's definitely pushed back and a little more reserved, and it's amazing like how social media. Like he doesn't. I mean, advertise nothing. Like he's just not
He's
out
been
there.
doing it, dude. I've known Daryl in the paint. I mean, not just him building bikes. He's been doing it since way before I got in, which I got in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in a very small shop at that time, just building choppers, like doing old bobbers and choppers
Right.
back in the day. And, and then he turned that little chopper thing. And when that shit kind of phased out, he just turned it into service, motor work. He started getting into motor work a long time ago. And he's always kind of been.
He can do it all, and
Yeah.
that's what keeps him going.
Yeah.
And that's why he doesn't have to do it. Really trying to push his name or nothing like
Yeah.
that. Like people know about him, and his shop is always like, I got to struggle to get in there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
I know something's coming up, and he's like, all right, I'll squeeze you in because
Yeah.
I'm like, this ride, I really need it on the road. So he helps me out, but it's hard to get in there just for simple things like a tire change.
Yeah, it is.
But at the same time, it's because he does good work.
Yeah.
And I mean that proved itself through this ride. Like the whole time, like I was just thankful that I didn't have any issues. And I'm watching other people on Instagram. There's a guy named 2-Inch Wheelies.
Yeah.
That red, I forget what it is. It's a Dyna, but it's got that red job on it. It's got the gold swing arm on it.
Yeah,
He was doing a big trip somewhere in California, and I was watching his miles stack, and he had a blown rear tire. So like this whole trip, like I'm thinking about your bike that got stolen, and I'm thinking about his rear tire blown, and like the whole time I'm like, oh God, I hope nothing happens to me. Like, and that's why I like seeing at the KOAs too. Like leaving my bike out, I was just really paranoid after seeing your story about having a bike stolen. I mean,
You know what I think the reason why it got stolen? I mean, obviously the reason why it got stolen is because, well, first off, it's a solid black Dyna, right? It wasn't custom painted. There was nothing about it that made it distinctively different from any other bike. So if you're going to steal a bike, I felt like it was just some crackhead that stole a bike and whatever. You know what I mean? He just saw the deal. My dumbass left the keys in it, which every bike in the parking lot other than Jesse's had the keys in it still. It's just that mine was farthest away from the door.
right.
And but yeah, like if it was custom painted,
Think it would have been all right?
I think it would have been fine because what you can't do shit with all those parts. You literally have to hide it quickly. What if as soon as we heard, he doesn't know if as soon as we heard that bike we didn't call the police or have somebody chase, and then
Right.
you know what I mean. So I think that having a custom bike, it's a lot. You got to have a lot more balls to steal it. Like I don't think just a random crackhead in the town is going to come out or even know how to fuck. I mean, you're probably smarter than I am and take your keys out.
Yeah, I don't leave them in there, but that's why I moved my ignition. I have a whole different ignition on
Yeah.
it, so just starting it is a little different than anybody else's bike.
Dude, I'm not trying to say people shouldn't like go and be super cautious about it. It's just never been a thought of mine. I've plenty of times in Vegas had my bike down in the lounge or whatever the VIP parking
Right.
shit. It's never been an issue. It's just the one time.
My past bikes, I've never thought that either.
Yeah.
But after spending a year putting this thing together
Yeah.
and the amount of money that that I dumped into it, and the bad things that went wrong with it, like there's just so much love into that bike.
Yeah.
And this, especially this trip, like really getting out to get out and really ride it, like I was really paranoid about it leaving anywhere. And the funny thing is, like half the places I go, people ask me if it's like some kind of gold wing or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that fairing, the full fairing just throws the people off that don't
Yeah.
know anything about it. And then there's other people that are pulling over like, oh, can I get a picture of this? You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
freaking out about it because there's just not very common to see a full fairing anywhere outside of California. You know what I mean?
It's not even that common to see one there. It's just that like, I guess maybe we're desensitized to it because of Instagram.
right.
But I just made a comment on my Facebook post last night about how it's crazy how you can ride that bike to a dealership and half the dealership don't even know what the fuck it is.
Right.
And I was just talking about how out of the loop I feel like so many dealerships are on trends of motorcycles and genres and styles and what's hot, what's not. It's just kind of it's almost gross.
Yeah,
To where
that's their life. That's what they pour into it, and they don't know.
they don't have a real invested interest into it.
Right.
It's just like
the other cultures that are built into just Harley itself. You know what I mean? There's so
Yeah.
many subcultures that are built around the bike.
I mean, there is in their defense, yes, there's tons of different subcultures in Harley Davidson to where maybe our Dyna Performance FXR kind of scene that we're kind of more interested
And the thing is, we're in it all the time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we're constantly watching on Instagram and anything else. Everybody else's bike, we're always talking about it. We're trying to hook up with other dudes that are fucking riding and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Is it as big as it? Is it as big in the world as it is in our head, because it's crazy. I see those guys like over in Thailand and stuff like that, and they're just building some insane shit. You know what I mean? To me, it's like all over the world. You know, you got the club style like Europe and Australia.
I think it's getting bigger because I think more people are finding the fun in it and the enjoyment out of it. And then, like I've been telling a lot of people for the last couple of years that like I wanted to show people, you know, that you can also tour these bikes. You know.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you know, with taking this trip, like that's why we ride these bikes. You know what I mean? Like, I figure everybody talks about the performance of them and how well they handle and this and that, but what do you mean? Like, they handle a wheelie really well? Like, that's it? You know what I mean? Like, they're good. It's
that big ass motor. How's that thing doing in traffic?
Yeah,
you know,
I don't understand. It's like the new skateboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have pushed past like just getting a board. Now they're onto a bike like this, and it's like burnouts down in the corner at the parking lot and doing some wheelies, and then it's put it away. Like, but are you really out there riding?
Yeah, and I mean that's the hard thing that I've had to swallow about like motorcycles is that there are a big group of people that just jump in these things for the enjoyment of that, just doing the wheelie and the fucking like being that guy that does the wheelies, throws it in the back of the truck, goes and parties with his boys. And I don't like connect with those people on the same level of the people that are actually getting out riding, but I think it's also the difference between the younger people that are into this and like maybe us in our age group.
I think I'm so desensitized to that. Like, I can't scroll past, like, or I will just scroll past like another burnout, another wheelie. But don't get me wrong, like, you know, Texas Hills, they're out there, they're wheeling their bikes and everything. Like, in person, hearing the motor, seeing somebody do that, oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to show up like just to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just
I mean, I don't want to tear up my shit either. You know,
I can't afford
tires
it.
cost too damn much.
Yeah. Well, you know, after the time of the fairing and everything, like, you drop that once, it's all over. You know what I mean?
Done.
So I couldn't imagine after the paint and everything, wrecking anything on it. I'm super paranoid of it. I try and ride the hell out of it, but at the same time, I try and respect it and take care of it.
Well, it's also like I've been, like we were just saying when you got here, man. It's like I'm going crazy. Like it'll be 4 weeks next week that I haven't physically had a bike to ride, and it just sucks, man. Like, you know, I guess I'm not like one of those dudes. Oh, I fucking ride. Like, I got to throw it on my fucking chest every day. But man, like every day riding in that van, you just kind of get beat down. It's like, man, it'd just be nice to ride to work today.
It changes your personality. I went like 7 years. I got out of the military, and at that time it was like 2010, so the market was crashing. So it wasn't the best time to leave like a career at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had a couple of dirt bikes, and I had an '06 Night Train. Loved it, man. It was tricked out.
I used to love those things.
It was fucking awesome. It was all blacked out. You know what I mean? Before black was really popular. It was just starting to come around. And I offloaded that thing and put cash in my pocket and hit the market, you know, to where I was looking for a job. But I was able to live for like a year just off the money from that bike and a little stuff that I'd saved up here and there and selling my dirt bikes. But, you know.
Well, that's good sacrifice to kind of step your life up.
That's the thing with leaving the military at that time is like, you know, am I really serious about it? Are you really serious about it? Are you willing to give everything up for it? And I had to like really sit down and think, am I that serious? So I ended up selling it, and it was cool. But then, you know, I became an adult, and then, you know, you got to buy a house and, you know, just do grown-up things, taking, you know, good care of my kid. So it took me 7 years to get back into a new career and get everything financially settled and really get to the point to have a bike. But constantly I'm watching the highway, and bikes go by, the weather's good, and you know what I mean? Like, it's fucking my head.
Being that you were into bikes before then, do you ever feel like you've missed out on opportunities at certain ages of your life because of that? Or because I feel like I have not a hateful jealousy, but a more proud jealousy of my little brother.
Oh, he's able to start it so young?
Yeah, he's able to experience.
No, because I bought my first bike like just randomly through high school and stuff like that. I was into the hot rods, but I wasn't really into it. It was the guys that I was with that were into it. You know, I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't me. And then I was 19, and I just randomly went by a Harley shop and ended up buying a Sportster, little purple deal. And I couldn't be happier. You know what I mean? That was the first bike I owned.
Yeah.
So I got into it that way, and I just loved it, and I rode the hell out of it. I didn't have a car at that time, and I was living down in the Mojave at that point. So, I mean, like, this weather, it's funny. Like, now this weather kills me. But, you know.
Yeah, back then.
125?
Yeah.
I'm just tearing through the weather. You know what I mean? No problems all day and night.
That's what I think about. Like, when I was younger, I was into, like, import cars. So we used to, like, take the ACs out to make them faster, allegedly. And I just was thinking the other day, I was like, man, if this like when I wrecked the truck, I was like the van. I was happy that everything was still working and the AC worked.
Right.
I was like, I don't think I could do it anymore. You know, just not having AC in the truck and stuff. But I was like, fuck, man. I remember just being a kid and just not giving a fuck.
Yeah, buying that first bike at 19, like I got into the Harleys, I think kind of young with no influence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a family member. Nobody I knew was like really into it, other than like seeing some guys on the base do it. So I started pretty young into it, and I was hardcore into it at that point. So I don't think I really missed out, because I did dirt bikes and stuff like that when I was younger. So I was more thankful that I did find it than missing out when I was younger. You know what I mean? To where it's just such a big part of my life. I'm constantly.
Yeah, I get. It's like I was saying. For me, it's just like I've been on bikes since '04, like nonstop. Maybe a little bit of a 2 or 3 year thing that I kind of took it off, but. You know, I just, like I said, you know, looking at what all these people are doing now, which I'm super like inspired by, it just, you know, I just get to the point where I'm like, fuck, man, I wish I, you know, could have done that when I had less responsibilities. You know what I mean? Or could have been a little bit more on that wavelength. But it is what it is.
That's when I was
still
in the military.
So.
You know what I mean? Like, I could spend every dime and dollar on the bike, on booze, whatever I wanted, and you're gonna have a place to live and you're gonna have food to eat. You know what I mean? Because that's what the military does for you. So I lived like a rock star during that time. There was plenty of stuff that I can't talk about now that, you know, might get me into trouble, because I had so much fun. You know?
All right. So when you're doing this trip, we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
So you made it to Pueblo. I always have a hard time saying that. Did you just stay on the path there, or did you start cutting into the mountains from that point? Because at that point, you're just kind of like riding on the side of the Rockies.
Yeah. Immediately, as soon as I got into Colorado, like you could, the
cut through Trinidad and everything right there.
The temperature changed. Yeah, the temperature changed, and it's crazy. You know, I got the progressive adjustable suspension on the front, the drop in. And I didn't realize how loose I was running it out here, just being on flat land. And as soon as I got into the twist, I've got more weight because, you know, I'm loaded down for the camping trip. And as soon as I got into like my first like downhill turn and just dumped into it, I could feel how kind of like loose everything was running. I'm like, oh.
Downhill corners scare the fuck out of me, period. Like, anytime anybody's ever ridden me, especially Mark, when we were coming back from a Dixon Flannel show a couple years ago, we were cutting through all the mountains in between Arizona and New Mexico, and he was just going around these corners, never ridden them before, just no fear of what's around the corner, right? And I'm just like, you know, I'm looking at my phone, looking at the GPS, seeing what kind of curve it is and shit. But yeah, like going down hills, man, like the momentum of the bike on top of like the speed and the cornering, it kind of, and I'm not the best at like taking corners that hard. So it's like, that just throws my geometry or my skill level all off.
And that's the thing with riding these bikes, is you can lean into them so much more. So where you think like you're done, I mean, you still got so much more that you can lean in and drag a knee and, you know what I mean, really get into it. And that's when it gets fun.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned looking at the speed sign coming up that if it says 50, you can do 70, 75. 25 miles over is like a safe speed. You get into 30, 35 over, now you're pushing. Now you really like got to put some focus into it, you know?
The ones that say like 10, 20.
Yeah. Those ones aren't lying. You can't go 20 over those ones. Those 10 mile an hour like turns. Yeah. So I pulled over, adjusted my suspension, and immediately like I could feel like.
So you just made it stiffer, was able to take it a lot better?
Yeah, I was able to just control everything. It went from being nice and loose to all of a sudden, you know, I'm driving a Cadillac down the highway to suddenly I'm driving a Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like it was just grabbing the turns.
The road.
I could feel I was more in touch with the ground a little more. So then all of a sudden now I'm awake. You know what I mean? Like now I've got these twists. I've got semis around me. I'm splitting lanes. It's like it's back to like really riding, you know, what I was used to in California.
Yeah.
So the weather was just beautiful, and I was pulling over, taking pictures here and there as much as I could, because I wanted to document as much as I could to kind of remember this trip along the way. And I mean, I think Instagram kind of forces you to do that if you put something into it, because it's nice to show. I hate people with their selfies, but I like if you're taking a selfie and you're like on the Eiffel Tower, you're like, fuck yeah, you're doing shit. You know what I mean? But you're like in your bedroom, and you're like, oh, fucking sad day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking who cares? Yeah. So, you know, I wanted to take pictures. So I was definitely pulling over. There was plenty of rivers and little creeks and stuff like that next to the highway. The sky was just beautiful at that point. So, but I was definitely getting to a point where I was beat up for the day. I mean, we're hitting probably like 8 hours when I crossed the state line.
Yeah. And Pueblo's the next town past, was it Trinidad?
That's what everybody's telling me. I don't know. I was just fucking...
Yeah, because like as soon as you so you come through Raton there, or Raton, however they say it out there, and then you go over the pass into Colorado, and it's like you go up a little bit and then nice roads. A lot of like lookout points and shit like that. It's usually raining every time I go through there. And then you come like right when you get down the hill, you're at Trinidad, and then then it's like Pueblo, Colorado City, I think, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
So I got to that point and I think probably like an hour or two before I hit the state line, I was pulling over getting gas, and that's when I started knowing like, okay, it's starting to be the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like now I need to start looking at where I'm going to stay, and this is the first night to camp. So I found that Pueblo, and it was probably about 2 hours away. I'm like, that'll be good for the day.
Yeah.
So I made it in there, and the KOAs are awesome because you can do it from your phone. You know what I mean? Like do the app, and you can check into a spot.
They got an app? That's cool.
They got an app, so you can check if their availability. I think and it gives you the price too. So I mean, like they're pretty good. And the KOA coming across the country, they saw that I was on a trip, so they would give me a discount each time I showed up to one.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Because every time I would check in, they would see my name, and it would show that I came from another KOA before that. So they were all hooking me up with discounts along
awesome.
the way. Yeah. So I mean, they were appreciative that you're using their product. But I got into the first spot. It was awesome. There was the KOA, a gas station, and then there was this little bar right there. And it was actually kind of a nice bar. It had a big balcony. It was kind of looked like a biker kind of hangout because they had some...
kind of a saloon feel?
Yeah, it had a saloon feel. They had a parking for bikes right out front. You know what I mean? So definitely they were friendly. They had some good food. It was great to sit down there and just... I could walk back to the campsite. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have to go get beer. I could sit there, have a couple beers, have dinner, and then go back to the campsite.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a good deal. So I went back and set up camp and started kind of looking over the next day, like what's the weather look like. I really, at that point, I knew I was going to be able to make Yellowstone, and I checked the weather all week, and it was raining all week long. Yeah, so I really didn't want to push into the rain. Like, who wants to camp in the rain?
It's like if you don't have to, then fuck it. You know what I mean?
If you can avoid it.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to get kind of to Denver and see Denver. One of the big things with the campsites too, the gear that I brought with me, I had one of those jet boils, and I went to REI, like one of the outdoor stores, and I got some like heatable meals you just add water to and it heats up. In the Army or in the military, they're MREs, meals ready to eat. So I had some of those, so I could either find like this place had that bar, but if I didn't have that, I still had some like food.
Something.
Yeah,
I always just take like tuna. Like I'll buy like an 8-pack of tuna and Quest bars.
See, but this goes back to the whole point of doing this trip by yourself.
Yeah.
And like there's the travel and light, and then there's the travel and like I'm enjoying this. You know what I mean? Like I really want to enjoy this. I had my jet boil. I brought like gourmet coffee with me. You know what I mean? Like when I got up in the mornings, like I was having oatmeal. I'm having my fresh coffee. I'm enjoying the weather, looking at the mountains. You know what I mean? Like it was a total experience. You know, I didn't just want to get up and be hungover and like get back on the bike and go at it. You know what I mean? Like I want to enjoy it. That's what I was there to do.
Are you on that page are you on Facebook? Right?
No, I don't do anything.
I was gonna say there's a page on Facebook called like motorcycle camping and shit.
I went on YouTube and I checked out some stuff on there.
There's a lot of good people on it. I mean, it's not like bike specific, so you'll have Harleys to Kawasaki.
A lot of the reviews on like products, you know what I mean? Like and that's really doing a trip like this, doing some local stuff in camping and figuring out like what your pack can take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you need? What don't you need? And that's really because you don't want to be out there without.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want to be carrying a bunch of stuff that you don't really need.
I like the challenge of packing as light as possible. Like so that's kind of like why riding a Dyna across country with no bags and just a sissy bar is, for me, it's not that that's the way I always want to do it, but it's like I want to see if I can do it and have a comfortable time. Obviously, whenever I had the FXR was up on the road with the bags, and then I could strap something to the rear fender, that was awesome. But I felt it's the same thing like when I first took my first bagger trip with my actual bagger.
Right.
And then I had 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, for in case I was going somewhere nice.
Right.
A pair of pants for every day. And then you just kind of like, as you do these trips, you realize that, okay, that's pointless.
You don't really need it.
Yeah, you don't need all this shit. Just knock the bugs off your shoes and go, hang out. Good thing about lowers, though, is you didn't have that problem.
No. I just had the shoes, the pants that I wore. I took like 7 days worth of socks, underwear, and T-shirt that I packed into one bag. And I mean, I like having the bags. I like turning the bike into it's a cross between a performance bike and a bagger, because I think you pour all this money into it and you get the custom paint and you got these parts that you want to show off and everything, and then you're gonna actually get out there, ride it, and you got fucking shit strapped to it left and right. You know what I mean? Then it looks like shit. And like,
but I think there's a group of us or people that are starting to appreciate the way it looks, because I think it looks cool seeing bikes packed down. I'm like, oh,
well,
shit.
you know, they're actually you appreciate that they're actually getting out there and enjoying it and riding it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you can. Next, I'd like to get a trunk. You know what I mean? Like, if I could have nothing exposed and everything locked up, I mean, all that much better. You know what I mean? I want to look the same as I do going down the highway, like here in town, as I do, 5 days from town. You know what I mean? Like, it's just. I like things being clean. You know what I mean? Like wires tucked away. When shit's just like everywhere.
Yeah.
I enjoy what you're saying.
Your
too.
OCD kicks in.
Yeah, I just want it to be clean. That's the whole point. Like, and it shows that you planned it a little more. You know what I mean? Like, you thought things out, and that's. I geek out on that stuff when I was looking for gear. You know what I mean?
What tent did you end up getting to be able to fit in those bags?
I went with the little. Actually, I took the tent and I strapped it down next to my sissy bar. So it was between the. There's like the grab bar on the bags. Between that and the sissy bar, I was able to strap it to the other.
Was it like bag. An REI tent?
Yeah, it was a little 2-person tent, which is actually better for like one person.
Yeah.
Because I got some of those single persons that are like a little cocoon deal. I'm like,
yeah, those suck because you can't even sit up in them or anything.
Where do you get dressed?
I've been using this tent for the last couple of years, or I say since I started camping last year. And I've already gone through it once and then left it somewhere because it got just ratted out. It's from Target. It's like one of the little Coleman or some shit, and it's got a tarp bottom. It packs up to literally like 14 inches. It's just over a foot packed.
Right.
Like tarp, tent, bar, like the rods.
Yeah, everything. The rods that go in it.
And so I started buying that for all my bike trips because it's perfect for just me alone, and I can put all my shit in it and stuff, and I can pack it down tight and shove it in a clamshell, or I can strap it to a sissy bar pretty nicely.
Yeah, it was just a little too big for the clamshell. I thought I was going to be able to fit in there, but I'm glad it didn't. It left me more room in those, and actually just figuring out how to strap things down was a challenge in its own. But I found a perfect spot for it. It worked out. But yeah, it was a little REI 2-person tent. I will say, like, you can get by with the Target stuff or the Walmart stuff. Yeah. But eventually it's just going to fall apart.
Yeah, and that's what happened like last year.
Which is cool sometimes. Like, you're at the end of a trip and you just want to pack it and you're like, I didn't spend
that's
that
what
much
I did coming back from Born Free last year. Is that, we camped 3 times, but I had used that tent like 4 or 5 times before. But at the same time, like being in the bag and the bag shaking and, kind of things inside the bag will start rattling, especially if something hard, it'll kind of
We got a couple of screw ends in there that are
it'll start rubbing through the tent and things like that. So, I pulled it out of I was repacking, and now I got a new Dixon flannel from fucking from Born Free, a couple T-shirts from all the homies out there,
right?
And then so I'm like trying to pack my bike up, and this tent's just kind of like shoving it in there. I'm like, you know what? It's $35, man. I'm just gonna throw it away and go buy another one. I
made your money up on that flannel, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's just one of those deals, man. It's like, to me, like, that's a good way to do it, but also like having like our buddy Gary. Gary's one of those guys. He's the first guy I ever camped with. When we went to Giddy Up last year, and man, we set up campsite. Man, he started whipping out all these fucking chairs. I'm like, where the fuck did you pack all this shit? And he's like, he went to REI and had all these little cute fucking compact type things.
A lot of people here in Texas don't know about REI. I'm from the West and spending time up in the Northwest too. Like REI, we live out of that place. You know what I mean? Like, they're expensive, there's no doubt, but the stuff that you're buying there is quality. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a member of that place, and I use every point they give me.
So after Pueblo, what was the next stop? Like,
I was gonna go up to Denver. I didn't really know from Denver where I was gonna go, and Denver was was probably gonna be the midpoint for the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was just hit Denver and then figure out like what the next spot was.
Was there anything specific you wanted to hit up in Denver?
No, I knew Denver was a big area, and really with my personal life, it's somewhere that I've considered maybe like moving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Colorado's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
So it was somewhere I wanted to see personally, to see like, what's it like up here?
It's a big fucking city, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, and there's older parts of the town and there's newer parts of the town, just like anywhere else. It's just a matter of stepping into it and feeling the climate, feeling the atmosphere. I pulled in, I saw a brewery, and sat down, was having lunch, good lunch, and I'm watching, like, I think the what's the soccer, FIFA, the World Cup's on
World
right
Cup's
now. You know
on,
what I mean?
yeah.
It's going right now. So I'm watching that, whatever, having a couple of beers. And then I'm getting these highlights across the bottom of the TV about tornado warning. You know what I mean? And then like one of the TVs flashes up and like news update, and it's like 2.5-inch hail balls falling.
Damn.
And I look at the guy next to me and I'm like, "Are you serious? Is this normal here?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's a season." I'm like, "Fuck, I get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
I pull up not only on the app for weather, you can get the actual temperature, but I didn't realize you can actually get the radar itself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I pulled that up and I was looking, and I mean, like it wasn't even red. It was like black, like where I was sitting. Like it was going horribly bad at that point. I looked outside and it was black outside. I'm like, I gotta get the hell out of here. And the
Yeah.
cool thing about that radar, it's over the map, so you can see the roads also. So I hooked a hard left and just made my way out to Utah at that point.
Oh, so the main highway like cuts through like by Breckenridge and all
Well,
that shit
at
through there?
that point, I was coming up, and I knew I wanted to take more back roads to kind of enjoy this and get more twists and turns,
Dude,
places
yeah.
that I didn't know about. But the problem with that is not knowing the gas stations, like we said before.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of road am I getting on? How's it going to be back there? So I was getting gas, and a couple of trucks that looked like they were delivering stuff in the area pulled in. And so I went over and I talked to the guys, just kind of asked them, like, what do you know about this road? Like, I got the main highway, and where I wanted to go I wanted to make it into Salt Lake. There's Black Rifle Coffee. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, I saw you went by there too, yeah.
So a big military company, or not military, veteran owned, and their whole deal is like gourmet coffee. When you're in the field, there's many things that you miss out on, but you don't miss out on coffee, and so you become kind of a connoisseur of that.
Yeah.
And these guys built a whole company off of that. So I want to go out and see it. I mean, they're big Instagram and YouTube. I mean, they do tons of videos and music videos and stuff like that. So it was just one of those things that, like, along the way, like, if I'm out here, I want to stop
Yeah,
by and
see
see
it,
what's
check
up.
it
You know
out,
what I mean?
yeah.
Shake some hands, say hi, take a couple pictures. So I knew I wanted to go through there. But there was the main highway, and then there was this back way, and the back way was a better shot straight into it. So everybody was like, no, take it. It's good. It's a legit road. I'm like, all right, let's go. So I got on it, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was just an awesome the whole time, like twists and turns. It was all, there was plenty of gas stations. The roads were nice. The views were great. And then I came on this little town called, it's Steamboat or Steamboat City or something like that, Colorado. It's like a little mini Aspen, like literally the middle of nowhere. And there's this brand new town. I mean, it had a couple of breweries into it. There's like the old style bars that are in town. There's brand new shops and stuff like that. I mean, it's totally like a ski town. I think they have you know those long jumps they do in the Olympics where the guy comes flying off the mountain? They've got like one of the oldest like training facilities or something. I don't even think they use it anymore, but it's like the oldest one in the country.
Yeah.
And it was big on the back of the mountain. You could see it sitting up there. There was a creek that went through the middle of the town that all the restaurants were set up on. I mean,
Nice.
like, I'm going back there. Like, it was, and that's part of doing these trips.
It's to scout them.
You do, you know, like you're saying, you go down for these weekends for these trips, and you're blasting through as fast as you can get, and you're missing out on the actual trip. You know what I mean? And you're traveling all this distance. I want to find these places. You know what I mean? And that's the point of taking these back roads. So I found that place and like definitely called the wife and like put this on the map. Like, we're coming
Yeah.
back here. That was the end of the day. I stopped in, had a drink there, and
Just stayed in Steamboat or what?
I was debating it, but the problem with the KOAs, when you're closer to town, your prices kind of drive up at that point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You go from a $26 tent spot to like $60 or something like that. You know what I
shit.
mean? So it drives up. So I pushed about 2 hours outside of town again and found a little place, Craig, Colorado. That place was awesome. I pulled in there, and some of the campsites actually have power. So I'm running my Sena on my helmet.
Yeah. So you're able to charge all your well, you got a charger on your bike. So
I
you
got
gotta charge
the
your
charger
phone.
for the phone, but it's different for the. I worry about leaving anything hooked up overnight. As little power as any of that draws, you just don't want to
Yeah,
cause
you just
yourself
wanna
any
be
more
stuck,
problems.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the campsite, there was 2 different tent sites, and one's got power and one doesn't. There was a group of guys over on one side. They looked like they'd been working hard or whatever, and they were a couple of beers sitting there. I'm like, I'm gonna go over there. They look
Yeah.
like they're gonna have a good time or whatever. So I went over there and sat, and they were some railroad guys. I wasn't gonna bug them. They weren't gonna bug me. So we sat up and just drank some beers and bullshitted all night. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Like, so that was cool. Go back to meeting people on this trip too. The first place that I was in Pueblo, when I was sitting at the bar, I met this guy, and it really, like, a lot of the trip I thought about this guy, because it just meeting people like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of cool. You're able to get out there and just let your guard down and just run into people. You know,
Yeah.
they're asking you. He rode up on a bike, so immediately like we're gonna
Converse.
we're gonna know each other. We you know, we're gonna get along. But he was telling me his wife had recently passed away from cancer. I mean, this
Damn.
he's in our age group. You know what I
Damn.
mean? So it's not like some old dude telling me the story. This is a guy like our age, and his wife wanted him to spread her ashes at all the national parks. So I guess there was one in that area, and he was there doing that. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
It was,
fucking awesome.
So it was, and the guy was really upbeat. So that was kind of a downer and a upper at the same time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like sad story, but really like he's getting out there, and his wife's wish was to kind of get out there and make him see the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Because there was like he was telling me like, you know, there's places in like Samoa, American Samoa, that there's national parks that he's gonna have to go. And I was like, wow. I mean, she really sent you on a trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's another way that he was going to be able to be reminded of her each time
Yeah.
he's on this trip. He's thinking about her.
And
so
you know, those kind of trips, you don't ever forget them, man.
yeah. And
You
so
know?
it's cool meeting people like that along the way. Like I thought about his story a lot while I was riding. Like, damn,
Yeah, it's dope.
it was cool to see like how upbeat the guy was. Cause I don't know if I could do that. You know what I mean? Like going to a dark
Yeah,
hole.
yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah, and be thinking about it the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
every stop. Yeah, that'd be a tough one.
But yeah, these guys were off the railroad and camped out. At that point, again, I still didn't know where I was going. I knew I was going to make it into Salt Lake at that point, but I don't know if I can push all the way to Salt Lake or not. So it's just, I woke up the next morning, kind of enjoyed, got up, had my oatmeal and my coffee, and took a couple of pictures and showed everybody where I was at. And I got back on the road, and I think I pushed all the way into Salt Lake that day.
This is day 3.
It's day 3. Yeah. Salt Lake got a little hotter. I was kind of surprised on how hot it was there.
When we went through Salt Lake earlier in May,
Yeah.
dude, it was just raining. It was cold, but it felt great because you know it's hot here, so it was a nice.
Utah's beautiful.
God, it's so nice.
Man,
It is so.
there's so
fucking
much to
nice.
that countryside. There's some great mountains and stuff like that. I went out there on a training exercise with the military, and I'd never been to Utah before. And I mean, you can get elevation sickness out at their mountains. The elevation's so high. They were telling us that, and there was people taking off the mountain because they just couldn't handle it. I remember I had my wedding ring on, and I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, "Fuck, I gotta leave this mountain." Like I didn't know if I was gonna be able to. I'd swollen up so bad just from the change. Like it was my finger was changing colors and shit. I'm like, oh god damn. So
Damn.
it's their mountains are pretty drastic out there, but beautiful.
So when you came into Utah, which part were you closer to like Moab and all that shit, or
no. So we're on the. I think Moab is more on the
Sa-
western side, south.
yeah, southwestern? So
Yeah.
you were kind of.
I came straight from Denver
Let me see what that
over. I know the highway that I took was 40.
40
was-
Wait, are you sure?
So it's I guess a state highway, not like
Okay, not
like
the main.
Yeah. So I pushed over from Denver to Utah, and I took a pretty straight route. But if you take the main highway, it kind of dips south, and then comes back up north to get into Salt Lake.
Yeah, like if you were on the main highway from Denver going across, then yeah, it kind of like drops you into Utah, like just north of Moab, like maybe 20 or 30 miles or
Right.
some shit, and then you got to cut up. And I that's the way we drove up there, cutting up through that way, and that's when I was like falling in love with Utah because all these arches everywhere and fucking beautiful landscape and such an alien landscape from one end to the other. Like
Yeah.
south end, it's like deserty, all the shit you see on everywhere, and then you go up north and there's snow-capped mountains and shit. And
When it's crazy if you're riding out there, there's like some old castles. They look like they're just
For real?
centuries old, but they're actually like the Mormon churches.
Nice.
They're just randomly, you're coming across the mountains, and it'd just be on a peak. There's this like, I mean, it looks like Transylvania, like some type of castle. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is that? And they're like, oh, that's one of the local churches.
Wow.
That's crazy. It's just weird to be in a different environment like that. Yeah, the main highway was 70
yeah,
that
70.
came through, but I took some back road 40 through there, and that's how I found that steamboat.
So that steamboat's more in northern Colorado, like northern west ish
I think it's like center.
center. Okay,
So even Moab is pretty center.
yeah, it's pretty center.
Yeah, I thought it was further south, but no, it's about center in the state, and it's not really like you really got to zoom in on the map to kind of find it. So I pushed it over to Salt Lake, and I made it there pretty early morning. I was kind of surprised that I made it in there, and rode straight into Black Rifle Coffee, and that was cool. Those guys were awesome. Just a it's crazy seeing a company that's so big on the internet, and then I mean they're not much bigger, and their shop is like this. You know what I mean? It's just a little front room.
That's exactly how that's how I see a lot of people, and I think some people see us too. Like sometimes,
right?
Not quite as obviously not as big as those kind of companies, but like you
can't judge them off what you see on the internet.
Yeah, it's like it's just that you get this sense of feel that because they have so much content that they're putting out that's associated with big wealth and success and like massive buildings and all this shit.
And really, if you're smart about it, you know what I mean? And these guys seem like they're doing it right. I mean, they have a small little shop in the front, you know what I mean? They're selling stickers and their actual coffee. They got a coffee bar that's going all the time. So you come in, it's free coffee. You can try some of their stuff. A couple of T-shirts and stuff like that, but nothing big. You know what I mean? It was just more of being in their environment. It was kind of crazy. Like they had I don't know if it was like an old post office or something like they bought, but there was like big gates on the side where they parked in the back and everything. So they had plenty of office space in the back that they were doing their media content and, you know what I mean, their actual distribution, things like that. The side note, they're moving down to San Antonio. They told me they bought a spot down there. So I guess a lot of the owners are moving down to this area too.
It's crazy.
Everybody's coming to Texas.
I know a lot of people from like San Antonio are moving to like Colorado. Like some of the Harley did, like the green Harley and stuff. The owners and stuff, they moved up to like what was it, Durango?
Oh, really?
Bought the Durango Harley Davidson and all that type of shit.
Yeah, but see, it's the difference of being in Texas and not being from Texas. Like, once you're here,
it's cheaper
affordable.
Here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
but
people
I don't
realize
feel like it's cheaper because I'm used to it being cheaper than it is now. But when I was trying to find a place a couple months back and I was bitching about the prices, and everybody's like, "Try living here and here and here." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm old as fuck, man. I remember when I had nice ass rent houses for fucking $850 and $900.
So I was telling a buddy of mine that he was trying to move out of California, and I was like, I didn't realize you were trying to move. And he's like, well, we don't really want to move that soon. We're in a cheap spot right now. It was like renting a family like house. It's like a 600 square foot little house in like the San Diego area. And I'm like, well, what's your rent? And he's like 1,800. I'm like, that's saving money. Like, you're insane. Like, that's crazy. I'm like, come to Texas. Like, you gotta have a mansion for that.
Exactly.
So people don't realize how reasonable it is out here, and that's why people are coming this way. And you're seeing people kind of leave here because they can venture out and get buy another business like that. I
guess for some people like me, I was just talking to Brian from TPJ. We were texting yesterday. He's a guy we had on the podcast. He's an awesome dude. And he was moving to Reno from Lodi, where he's from.
In Cali?
Yeah. He was moving to Reno, and I was asking him how the move went and stuff like that. And he sent me this picture of the mountain range right in front of his place. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like to a lot of people in Cali, that shit ain't nothing to them. But to me, like walking outside and seeing that would be like, it would change my life every day. You know what I mean? Because I'm not used to that, as opposed to like maybe for someone coming here, the scenery that's not here isn't a big change. It's like, I'm used to mountains I grew up with.
It's just as drastic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're used to seeing that. You're used to seeing the trees and used to the greenery all around you and the elevation changes and being able to go any direction. You got ocean or mountains, you know what I mean? You got snow or ocean, depending on the season. So it's just as harsh to kind of come out and you're like, it's flat. And then they're like, well, let's go down to the Texas hills. You'd be like, the foothills? Like, those are cute.
The foothills.
Yeah. You guys little mounds here. They're cute. No, I definitely, it's the first place that I've been like that's made me a little homesick for California.
Yeah.
That's why you see me like always sporting all the California stuff. Like, don't get me mixed up. I'm not from here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a harsh thing between California and Texas. So now I'm like, I just own it. Like, I'm from California. Like, so I put it on everything I got just to piss people off.
Yeah, I think probably if I moved to California, I'd probably be that guy that's like, oh, I'm from Texas. Like, I'd be proud of it then, but right now I'm like, fuck this place. You know what I mean?
So I was in Salt Lake. I stopped there. I wish I could remember the spot. They all pointed me out to this burger shop. Man, they had some great beers. They had bike parking out front. It was a good spot to sit, and I had a couple of drinks there and just enjoyed my time there. Recharged my phone and got everything kind of back up and running. I had a portable charger with me. So at night I was charging my helmet and stuff like that. That was a huge lifesaver right there. So every time I went into a restaurant.
One of those little bitty box things or something? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a portable one. And I mean, man, it was recharging my helmet. Too. That thing was awesome. From there, I just stayed on the same route heading towards, at this point now I'm heading towards Yosemite. I'm going to push through Nevada.
So you started heading north? Or no, you were going towards Wendover and everything, right?
Yeah. And actually, I ended up camping in Windover.
So did you go check out the salt flats?
I didn't really check them out. I rode through them, man. Nevada was harsh going through there. At that point, there was the road that I took to. I could have stayed north, and it would have put me up like above like Sacramento or something like that if I kept going through Nevada.
Yeah.
But I took this little side road, and that dipped down and brought me into the east side of Yosemite, and I camped in Adam Leaning or Adam Lee or something like that. It was on the backside of Yosemite. That push going through from Utah through Nevada, I think it was like 100 and it says on my page like it was 186 miles. I think from the point you step off to the point to the next point.
Pretty much Vegas, and then everything else other than Reno in Nevada is just nothing.
Yeah, it was flat. The heat wasn't too bad.
Yeah, up north it's not too bad at all.
It was still, I mean, we're looking at like 96, 97. It was still warm.
Yeah.
Again, on days like that, it was nice to be able to, where there's nothing out there, I was able to pull over and I pulled out, a couple of those meals that I had and my little jet boil, and I was able to have lunch just on the side of the road or a rest stop instead of, I would have like a good meal, like maybe once a day at a restaurant.
That's smart. Yeah.
And then the rest of it, I was saving money and just kind of camping out wherever I was at. So I didn't have to veer off my route as much, I could if I wanted to, or if I didn't want to. Like here, I didn't have any choices. So it was nice to have food instead of pulling into a gas station and getting like a granola bar and, whatever the shit you
end up spending $10, $12 every stop, and that shit adds up real quick.
So I brought a handful of these packs with me, and they're probably like $7 to $9 a piece. They were full meals. They were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But going through Nevada into California, that push on that road, it was 186 miles. If it had been like 187, I don't know if I would have made it.
So you pulled it off on the Dyna?
Yeah, I pulled it off.
Wow.
It was good to go the whole time. I want to say it was 168. That's what it was.
Okay.
168.
That's like fucking pushing it on a Dyna tank.
It was good. And I got this from Lowbrow Customs. I got this little gas can that sits on the front of my bike, blends in pretty well. And I probably have about 30 miles like in that little can. But that's your reserve, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you don't want to get to that point because then you really know you're screwed.
Yeah.
So I made it all the way into some little small town. I think I was still in Nevada at that point. A friend of mine was on a trip at the same time. Him and his wife were riding. And I didn't really think about... I was looking over the bike, but I hadn't checked my fluids. And he hit me up. He was like, hey, make sure you check your fluids. You kind of start to burn. I don't have any problems with my oil. You know what I mean? I don't have a drip or nothing like that.
You'll burn it, though.
But yeah, you burn it up pretty quick. So I ended up checking it, and I was down quite a bit. I was still good, but I'm like, damn, I dropped because I just changed everything before I left.
Yeah.
So I knew what my level was when I left. Pulled over, got a quart, and filled it up. And drank that, no problem. And then I kept pushing, and I made it to the backside of Yosemite. And I was coming in that way. It starts out as desert, and then you start working your way into like desert mountains on one side, and they're getting greener as you push further into them, which is kind of cool.
Is it on the Nevada side? Are the foothills similar to the way they are on the California side? Being like you're from Fresno, right?
Yeah.
So like a little bit tucked in the like towards the mountains, you start getting those foothills.
Yep.
Kind of. Is it the same way on?
I got
side?
some video of that, which was really cool coming into it because it's like a roller coaster.
Those are fun to ride on, dude.
They're super fun, and at the same time, I mean, it's super scary because some of them are just small little dips, and other ones are big ones, and you want to hit it. You know what I mean? Because the road's great,
yeah.
But at the same time, you don't know if this is gonna go downhill on the other side. You don't know if it's gonna come into a turn on the other side. So I mean, like you're halfway trying to gas it, and you're like holding off a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was a blast. Great turns up and down. I mean, you get that falling feeling in your stomach. You're coming around. But it's more desert on that side, and you start working your way into getting greener and greener. Even once I made it into Yosemite from that side, it was still more open.
Which highway did you take over? The one I always want to take is the 120 across, but it's always fucking. That's the one where all the real scenic shit is that you see on like Instagram posts is 120, but it's always fucking blocked. Like it's either it's snowed over,
Yep.
You can't pass through.
Yeah, that sounds right because. Depending on what time of year you go, there's only I think there's 2 passes that go through Yosemite, or the the Sierra Nevadas in general. So there's only certain times of the year you can make it
Yeah.
over. Otherwise, you got to go up like near Sacramento, or you got to go down to like Mojave to make it around. There's no, there's only
Center,
two spots. Yeah.
So what we did was we went through Reno, dropped down to South Lake Tahoe, and then took 80 across, which was a recommendation from some friends out there. And dude, that shit was fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was still pretty high, but nowhere near what I know it is deeper south. You know, from Lake
And that's some
Tahoe
good mountains
area.
out there, and you got some good hills. I came to where you were at in Reno. I was further south,
Yeah.
and so from Nevada at some point, I broke off south like this and hit a straight angle down, and you kind of went this direction
Yeah,
up
straight
north.
across,
yeah,
yeah.
straight across. So I took a 45 down, and going through Nevada, that was horrible. It was just flat. There was nothing out there. I took one of those pictures where you put the bike sideways in the center of the road, which is kind of weird. It doesn't
There's
matter.
nobody out there.
But no matter how far you can see, when you're focused on trying to take that picture, you just feel like somebody's sneaking up behind you. Like there's
Yeah.
some car you missed and it's going to come flying by
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I know what you mean.
But then, yeah, making it into the backside of Yosemite, camped out on that side. That was the only place I couldn't get a KOA. I had to go to a private campsite, which was cool. Again, there was a bunch of restaurants and bars in town near the campsite that I was in. The only downside, and you can email these people. They're on their website, and they're pretty active. Checking in after hours, because part of it is like a lot of the places close at like 4 or 5. You know what I mean? They're retired people just taking care of these campsites. But they'll hook you up. You don't even have to pay that night. Just come and see them the next day. You fill out a little form or whatever, and then you come in and pay cash like the next day. So you've already camped. You've already done your deal. Well, this place, the only downside to it was, which I hadn't encountered yet, was you had to have tokens for the showers.
Showers, yeah.
And you couldn't use quarters. They had to be tokens. So the night before, there was a couple of families by me, and I was just camped out. I had a little Bluetooth speaker with me. So places like this, I was getting pretty good signal. So I'm getting like Netflix. I got a couple of beers. I got my fucking meals on the bike. I'm sitting watching like Laura Croft or something like that, just having a good night, drinking beers by myself, you know. And where I was at, I mean, it wasn't more than like 500 yards. There's just this giant mountain like cloaked over me. It was beautiful. But these families were telling me like, hey, you know, in the morning you might want to move your bike, because I was parked up near the tent on the grass, and they said they water pretty early. Like the grass up here dies pretty quick, so they got to water it. And I'm like, fuck, all right, good to know. So I know that the office opens up at 8 the next morning, so I get up like 6 o'clock, do my thing, you know, breakfast, wrap everything up, and then I go over to take a shower. Fucking
Oh, that's when you had to
no hot water. You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck, this sucks. But it is what it is. So I didn't get a shower that day, and where I was going into Central California, it was only going to be about 4 or 5 hours, and then I was getting down to where my kid was at. I'd shower there, wash clothes or whatever, so no big deal. But I got up, and 8 o'clock, shop opened there, the office. You go in, you pay it was like $28 to camp, and, you know, I was just on the outskirts of Yosemite. So, I mean, again, still pretty cheap. Before that, when I was in Nevada, the KOAs also have their cabins. And they go for about $60. The nice thing about those is now you have a padded bed. Like usually they had like a queen bed and like a what do you call it? Like a bunk bed.
Bunk bed, yeah.
And depending on how far or where they're at, they'll have different amenities. Like when I stayed at, I had like a refrigerator and a TV that had like cable in it. But the big deal is they got AC.
Nice.
So when I was in that Nevada part, it was nice to have something with an AC and a bed, because after 4 or 5 days, it's not just camping on the ground and then getting into a car and having a comfortable seat. I mean, you're on the bike, you know what I mean? So like your back's beating.
Yeah, it takes a beat. Yeah.
I'm wearing a full face, so your head, as much as like the fairings taking stuff off of me, it's still just the weight of carrying that stuff, you know what I mean? So it affects you. So it was nice to lay down on a bed, and it gives your muscles time to relax. But having that AC up in it was nice to.
I remember we stayed at this little town not too far from Fresno. We were going to go up into we were up in the foothills of Sierra Nevada, I guess is what it is. It's called Three Rivers or some shit like that. It's a campground, and it's like a little town right there.
Okay.
And we got there late because I was having issues all the way there. And we pulled up. It's right on the river. You can hear all the rapids.
Yeah.
It sounded so fucking cool. And we got there late. Same thing. We had made arrangements, so we just had to pay them for it in the morning. And by that morning when I woke up, it was so hot there that I think I was almost butt-ass naked in my tent, just trying to keep from sweating on my clothes and shit. So,
and that's, you know, planning for some of the gear on this. I picked up this down, like a small throw blanket, and I was able to. I had these sacks that I carried my clothes in, and then my sleeping bag. To where you stuff your sleeping bag in it, and then it's got the straps on the side of it, so you cinch it down.
Yeah, I understand. They're like compression bags.
Yeah, compression bags. I had one for just about everything that I had.
Yeah.
And this down blanket really, if you're gonna do these trips, if you got the time, you do some local camping and see what kind of gear works for you. My sleeping bag was good, but if it got really cold, if we got into like the 30s, like you're gonna survive, but you're not going to be very warm. You know what I mean? Your toes are going to get frozen. Having this little blanket, like it stuffs down to, I mean, just the size of this rag inside there. You can bunch it up pretty good. That really saved my ass when I was getting towards Yosemite. It started getting colder at night. It was nice to have something that was going to keep me warm. But having the correct gear really makes it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big deal. You don't want to get out there and be missing.
Yeah, you start, like I said, when you start camping, like you said, do some local stuff, some close things, and you'll start to figure out what you really want on the deals.
Yeah.
Especially like when you get to a campsite early and you don't have.
Well, I had like a little headlamp with me, you know, at night. Like depending on what time, like I got in, you know, there's not a whole lot of light at those places. I mean, what are you going to do? Pull the bike up and use the headlight off that? You know what I mean? Like you're kind of limited on even moving that around some of those campsites. I ended up picking up at one of the Harley shops, like one of those little pads that you see in the shop that they protect the floor with. Yeah. Because some of these campsites, I mean, I was, you know, with
your kickstand, it might need
with the taller shocks and stuff like that. It's already got to lean too far.
Yeah, so it's going to dig a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, like I'm setting it up. I'm always worried about it. So I ended up stopping and getting one of those when I was in Colorado, and made sure like I didn't.
That's smart. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they were like $5 or something like that.
Throw them in the back of it. And aren't they like plastic or rubber?
Yeah, it's just a little piece of plastic.
Yeah,
and it's got a little slot that fits your kickstand. Other than that, you're pulling it. Before that, I was pulling into places and I'm searching around for a little rock or something like that to do.
Old beer can.
Yeah, exactly. So having the right stuff with you really makes a difference. And I just didn't want to wake up and see my bike like laying on its side.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah.
Especially without the crash bar.
Yet. So I woke up the next day and now I got Yosemite. Like I'm at the back gate and that 120 going through. So that was where I started the morning was going through Yosemite. And man, I've been to Yosemite. Being from California, I've been there 100 times and I've hiked all through it. But it doesn't matter how many times you go through it. It's still it's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like the mountains instantly coming up on those mountains that are just over the top of you. I mean, they're nonstop.
The riding's got to be fucking amazing too.
I think it's the weekend now. So I took off on a Monday, and so I think I'm rolling into there about Friday now.
And you took your time. We usually try to get there in 3 days.
Yeah, I was enjoying it. You know what I mean? And there was like the first day doing like 12 hours. Then there were some days that a 5 hour. When you look on the map and it says 5 hours is the total time that it's going to take you to get there. That's in a car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On a bike, you're just staring at the road. You're just sitting there entertaining yourself. You know what I mean? And then when you're hungry, you can't just pull over to McDonald's and just smash it and keep going. You know what I mean? Like you got to stretch your legs once in a while. So that like 5 hours turns into possibly like 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depending on how much time you're taking each stop.
How many miles were you trying to push before you stop each time? Like, what was your kind of like your comfort zone? Was it
comfort?
Yeah, just
was
whatever
it how
it was.
I was feeling it. Yeah, whatever I was feeling. Like, sometimes it would be an hour. I got one of those San Diego Customs bar bags, the bigger one. I took I think it's Camelback makes like a bottle holder.
Yeah,
and it's got Molly on the side of it, which is those straps that you lace in together.
Yeah,
so I put one of those on the side of it, and then I had a Nalgene bottle that has like a lid that I had a hose connected to because we're wearing the full face. The one thing I don't like about them is not being modular. You know what I mean? So you got to figure out a way to try and drink. The time of year that we're leaving,
it's hot.
It's hot. So I mean, I probably would have made it like 45 minutes on average, just going straight before I was just like parched. I had to have something. But every time I gassed up, I'd fill that thing up with ice and water, and I was able to go like 2.5 hours. Close to like 3 a lot of the time, just straight, just riding. It was me, and I had the energy in me, and I'd go about 3 hours just straight.
Yeah, sometimes like for me, I'd always try to, I like my comfort is between like on a low end 70 and a high end like 120 miles. Plus on my FXR, that's all I would get was 110 to 120 miles in the tank. And what I found that I like doing, or what I did, like say on this last trip to Indianapolis, like sometimes we'd plan this gas stop, but it's somewhere kind of urban enough to where I know that we could do another 20 miles and there's definitely gonna be another gas station.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's just push another 20 miles. You know, I feel good, you know, so let's just do it. And then you kind of knock another 20 out, and then now it's only 200 miles to, your destination.
Well, and that's the thing, is really paying attention to where your destination, especially on those back roads like that when I was in Colorado, paying attention to where the next town was going to be, the next gas station was going to be, and then knowing how many miles you'd gone already. You know what I mean? So as to where I didn't really need to stop, but I wasn't going to make it to the next spot. So might as well stop somewhere, and I found something here that looks pretty decent, like pull over here and reload the water and reload the gas tank. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So it went off comfort, and then it went off like mileage, you know what I mean, depending on where my stops were going to be. And it was never like I really planned it out. It was just kind of watching the highways as I went to see where the next gas station was going to be. If it was going to be 200 miles, well, at some point I needed to fill up, regardless if I wanted to or not.
And it's also good you had the little the Lowbrow Customs little bottle. That's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I also heard Mike and Dan, when they went up to that Red River thing, they were talking about those monster cans, the big ones with the caps on top.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea.
You can actually pour gas in it. It's a little aluminum can that's got an actual twist top that you can seal it back up.
That's actually not a bad idea. That's
Yeah.
a cheap way right there.
Yeah.
That Lowbrow Customs one that I got, it's got a little Velcro system that straps down to the
down to.
Again, it goes back to the whole thing of like it's on my bike all the time.
Yeah.
And I've used it before. It goes back to having something on there clean. You know what I mean? I see the guys like
nice.
on the sissy bar, they've got the bungee
fucking
cord
red.
and the gas can on it. You know what I mean? And there's something cool about that. But
That's the chopper thing to do.
man, there was some guys when I was in Nevada just ready to camp down at the border coming into California, and they were on like they were newer Sportsters that had been chopped up or whatever.
Yeah.
But these guys looked, I mean, they probably been riding like 4 hours. They look like they'd been on the bikes for like 3 months. You know what I mean? Oil's fucking all over them. They're like leaning up against the van. They had a van with them. It was all fucking beat to shit.
Living the dream, man.
Dude, and I'm out there. I got like my white like UV sleeves on, fucking white helmet. And, like I look like I've been riding like 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like, I feel like I'm hardcore, and I look at these guys, and these guys are fucking just beat to shit. I'm like, I don't want to ride like that. That looks miserable.
Yeah, that's more for the gram.
Yeah, those guys, and they pulled into the same campsite that I saw them roll in.
They didn't want to come hang out or talk.
Yeah, we didn't even like make eye. They didn't even look at my direction when I pulled into the gas station.
Wow.
The bike was too flashy for them. It wasn't their style. You know what I mean? They're fucking skinny jeans and fucking black t-shirts and
Big ass fucking iPhone 7 or X's and shit.
they got their feathered hair and you know what I mean? Like they're all into the 70s look and the lifestyle, and I'm too much the other direction of modern, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is cool. Everybody's into the thing, but we're all into
but the
two
bike
wheels.
should always be
The center?
Yeah, it should be the glue to bring multicultural people and ideas. And
I took a second.
all
I
that
walked
shit.
around their bikes. I checked them out or whatever. Still nothing. They didn't say nothing. It was just we were too far and they were too busy in their image. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to
Of being that hardcore. It's whatever. That's them. That's their lifestyle. It's whatever.
Yeah, but they, that kind of stuff. That's the whole point of these type of trips is those people you meet.
Yeah.
It's those people you meet at the campsites and the gas stations, and sometimes those gas station people are annoying as fuck. But sometimes, they're cool people. It just depends, and you don't want to be an asshole to somebody out in the middle of nowhere who took the time to come say, "Hey, man, I like your bike, man. Where are you headed?"
Yeah,
to?
I don't know where I was at, and some dude like in a minivan. You know what I mean? Like total dad. Came up and he's like, "Man, can I get a picture of your bike?" So I mean, there's people out there that recognize what you're doing and appreciate it and want to be doing what you're doing. You forget, like, you're out doing this. Somebody else is hammering down at work, so you're kind of living the dream at that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, Jesse just got to work. Let me pause this so he can get to work. All right. We're back. Yeah, fucking Jesse's always getting here late as fuck.
It's nice. It's nice. That's a good work day right there.
Watch it. He shows up at 10:45, and then he, of course I'm sending him out and do this thing, but 4 hours later he's like, you need me to do anything else? I'm like, dude, you've only worked half the day. It's like,
hey, it's nice. It's nice to know the boss.
Now, the older I get, the more I realize how hard it is to work with family. You know what I mean?
It's on such a small environment like this, it's hard to work with anybody. You know what I mean? You really gotta because you're so close with them. You know what I mean? Like it's more than just a working, but then there's certain times that you need it to be a working relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you become friends with the person, so you have like the sympathy for certain aspects of things that are going on. But then, like I said though, it's not like we're working close together and we're partners where he has an equal responsibility as me. It's more like my responsibility is to make sure that you're getting paid every week.
Right.
But most grown adults, and not trying to say anything bad about them, but most people understand their purpose of having a job is to make money for the company.
Well, not only that, but I mean, you got a different he's making bike money, you know what I mean? Like, he's living the life, you know what I mean? He's looking for new tattoo money, fucking making sure he's got enough money in his pocket for beer. I mean, it's simple responsibilities in life. Like, this doesn't work out, find the next spot, and you know what I mean? Like, you fail at yours, you're like, fuck, I'm on the poverty line, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
This is all going downhill. You got fast life food stamps, you know what I mean? Like, that's a whole different world, a whole different responsibility.
Yeah, for sure. So you just crossed over the mountain.
Yosemite.
Yeah, Yosemite.
So I woke up and I'm on the east gate of Yosemite, going to do that 120 in. Getting in there's a little bit of a line, as you imagine. It's like I said, I think I'm waking up now and it's like Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's a weekend, which I didn't plan on timing it that way. It's just the way it worked out. So getting up to the gate, there's just I went from, I didn't even know there was a lake on that side, and it was definitely different than the west side of being so green. It was actually a little more desert out there than I was used to seeing in Yosemite. I'd never crossed over before. Just before you get to the gate, there's 395 that comes down the east side of California, which a lot of people don't take. I really, really, really wanted to take that. That's just a whole different environment in California that people don't know about. The whole logging towns and stuff like that. It's just a forgotten area that people don't know about. But I needed to get over to the Central Valley to see my kids. So, and like you said, there's only a couple of spots to cross over. So it's like, if I cross over there, I'm committed. You know what I mean? Unless I go back through that and then jump down.
You can find yourself going down lots of directions, and and if you don't have service, you can't tell if roads are closed until you're hitting them, and stuff like that. And also, so you said you took the 120 over?
Yeah, I think it was a 120 that came through Yosemite. A little bit of traffic getting in there, which is cool, but once you make it into the valley, it's not so bad. I think there's a gas station in the middle of it, so and there's a couple of different restaurants and places you can stop. I just kept riding through the whole thing. I think at that point I pulled over. It was starting to finally get warm, and I started out with a flannel in the morning, and I pulled over towards the end of the coming on off the other side, and finally pulled off my flannel. I could feel the temperature change all of a sudden, but. You never miss out when you go to Yosemite. You know what I mean? Like, you can look every direction. You can stand there for as long as you want and just stare at the mountains. It's just beautiful. I mean, you get lost in there and just, it's a whole different environment. Just green in the mountains. I mean, seeing the granite rock, it's a great feeling. That the air is so different out there. It's so crisp to wake up in that. Unless you've been in it, you really don't understand like how that feels. It's just a different environment altogether. But I pushed through Yosemite that day and made it into the Central Valley, and being in Texas, this heat, the humidity, like is I bitch about it all the time. It's harsh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I totally forgot. It's been years since I've been back during the summertime in Fresno, and it's horribly hot out there. There was only like a 20% difference between the humidity out there.
Yeah.
As to where you're looking at 98 today, it's like 110, 115. I forgot, like I grew up in that kind of heat.
Yeah.
But getting back into it, I was just, man, it was a blast.
What's Fresno like? I've only passed through there a couple times.
Growing up, it's a lot different now. It's a lot different. They've made more highways through there to where it used to be like two. It was like 99 and 41 that went through Fresno. And to get across Fresno, you had to like actually drive on roads. You know what I mean? Like there was the north and south that went through it. A lot of people would say Fresno was like a shithole because you're taking 99, which is a big that's an industrial route. So it's on the backside of town. So you're seeing a lot of the farms, you're seeing the backside of like the companies and stuff like that. But once you got into town, growing up, it was a great like blue collar kind of town. You know what I mean? Like I had a pretty good upbringing through there. It was awesome because you get to Pismo in like hour and a half, or you could be up towards Yosemite in like 2 hours, you know what I mean, or 3 hours. You just had the best of everything there. But over the years, they put more highways that have crossed across town. So things that were the better side of town, the worst side of town, now they have easier ways to kind of intermingle. Mm-hmm. So the whole town is just kind of turned into the same thing. It's just not as nice as it used to be. And the whole time there, it's no different.
I felt like the Bakersfield, Fresno, Modesto kind of line. It's not that they're shitty towns or anything. It's just that I feel like they're kind of pass-through towns. Like people are just passing through, and the people that are there, aren't really investing a lot.
Fresno is a major town,
yeah.
Which is funny because my wife is from like Santa Rosa area, and like we lived up there for a little bit, and everybody would talk about how small town Fresno is and like how big their area is. Mm-hmm. And every time we're like watching TV, there's like a movie or something like that, and they're always mentioning like Fresno. They drove through. There was a concert in Fresno. You know what I mean? Like there's always something. So we're always like, see, Fresno's known. It's on the map. Like people always know about Fresno.
Before the 5 was built, that was kind of like you had to go that way, right?
Yeah, that was the major route.
It was 101 and then 5.
Fresno it's a big town. It's got all the amenities there. I think in the Central Valley, between what you're talking about, all the way up towards Dublin, it's probably like the biggest town in that whole Central Valley down to Bakersfield and stuff like that. It's the major town in that whole area, but the heat is just grueling there. Seeing the prices of everything, houses, it's just the whole thing's turning into a ghetto. The gas is crazy. Every time I see people that I knew, I'm like, why are you still here? Like, I don't understand it. What's the draw? Like, it's crazy hot. It's super expensive, and you don't live on the coast, and you don't live in the mountains. So I'm like, what? People just stay what they're used to.
Yeah, it becomes easy.
Yeah, it's just comfortable. It's different to jump out of your comfort zone.
I've heard of people come here where it's cheaper and not be able to make it here. Because, like, in Cali, like, say, for instance, certain jobs pay way more than they would here. So it all kind of it all adjusts and fluctuates based on areas and cost of living and wages and things like that.
Well, whatever your business is, that depends on it, too.
Yeah.
You may have to be in California to get that fast-paced
See, my friend,
life.
he does tattoo work. He was living here in Mansfield, but he's from, like, Brentwood area where I'm always at. And he was here, and he does tattoo, and his old lady was like in the nursing. Mm-hmm. His old lady in Cali was making 90-something grand to do what she was doing here, which she's only making like 50-something.
Yeah, but your house is half the price.
Exactly.
Buddy, I was talking to my kid and everybody else there. Their registration on average for a car is like $300. What do we pay? $65? I pay like $50 for my bike. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you can't look at your income and just say like we make less money. Like you're spending a lot less too.
Yeah.
I was down in the Mojave, Baker. That's where the world's largest thermometer. That's their big claim to fame.
Yeah.
I got a picture of that. It was like $4.60, $4.50 or something like that for gas. What are we paying, like $2.90 or something like that at our highest? So, I mean, it's a big difference.
Well, they got that gas tax out there. It's like always, they've always explained to me it's always usually at least $1 higher.
Which I don't understand. The majority of the gas is produced in the Bay Area. Yeah. All your refineries are out there. So, how is it cheaper here when we're shipping the gas from California out to here? You know what I mean? Like mm-hmm. I just don't understand big business like that. But it doesn't. How do we produce something here and it's more expensive for us than in shipping it across the country to somewhere else?
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic, man. But it's all you start getting into politics, talking about views of this and that and the other, and where what I mean. It just gets down a rabbit hole of like shit that I don't think that any of us really understand.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But so after you finally got to hang out with your daughter, like
so I hung out there. It was nice. She took me to work. We did some stuff. Saw some old friends from like high school and stuff like that. That I've talked to like on Instagram. Just like got back in connection. A friend of mine down there, 559 Cocktails, is doing like a really cool thing with. He's like blending drinks and like his garden. You know what I mean? He's taking his own alcohols and like putting these different flavors in him. He's got the guy was like geeked out on this garden. It was crazy. But
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how so many, like we look at bikes and that's kind of like our thing, but there's people out there that like have as much passion for like crafting beer in their garage that
the energy and the power that somebody has when they really pour it on like that. Yeah. He was out there showing me his garden, and he's like breaking stuff off and smash them. Smell this. You know what I mean? Like this comes from this part of the world. Like his enthusiasm was just, it was cool to see somebody else, you know what I mean, that was really passionate about their stuff. Because it's one thing to be like into it. It's another thing when like you wake up day in and day out and you're all about it. Your life is all about it. And he's not successful yet at doing it. He's up and coming, but it's something that's gonna hit. You know what I mean? Gourmet drinks I think like he's one of the few people like really doing something like that. You know what I mean? Like you can get vanilla vodka or something like that, but he's blending all kinds of stuff together. Yeah. So I got to see some friends, and I stayed there for I think 2 days that I hung out, and then on the third day I was back on the road, and I was gonna go see. So I still got that time clock going to where I need to be in Phoenix by Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And this is Friday.
We're looking at probably
Saturday.
like Saturday. So I hung out the weekend and probably took off like Monday, and headed to Vegas.
You just dropped down to Bakersfield.
So which is really the only route to go, unless I'd gone back to Yosemite and come back.
I like that little pass. Like when you head Bakersfield and you're going up through that pass to Tehachapi. I like that part. But then where like when you're going from Barstow before you get off into the mountains there. Yeah, that part's it's pretty shitty. And they just widened it finally. It used to be like one lane on each side. And you'd always get stuck behind 18-wheelers because that's
it used to go. It's not very far, but it used to go further south and actually go through like the town of like Mojave. Yeah. Now the road that they're taking, you bypass that and it just keeps going.
I want to say like around like Palmdale and shit like that in Lancaster, which is not too far from all that. That's where like that Kill Bill church is and all that type of shit. From the movie Kill Bill?
Oh, I didn't know that.
They said it was in El Paso, but it's actually out there.
I could see that. It's all wide open.
Deserty looking.
Back in '99, I was stationed in the Army out there in Barstow. There's Fort Irwin, which is like, if you think Barstow's in the middle of nothing, you take another 45 minutes and you head into the middle of the desert, and that's where the base is. You have to drive like 45 minutes to get from the base into Barstow. That's your first stop.
Damn.
So that when you're going through Barstow over to Baker, you kind of have to do this loop instead of doing a straight shot. It's because the base is actually out there, and that's all desert training grounds out there. So you're actually doing a loop because of the base to do that.
I think the one thing I dread the most is driving from Needles to Barstow. That's every time I drive to California, or I try never to ride through that part because it's just the most boring thing. And
it's just flat.
It's the same thing going, at least when the only thing I don't like about doing the Vegas to Barstow is that you always get stuck in traffic. It's always heavy traffic because everybody's from LA is going back and forth. You know?
It wasn't too bad. I did pretty good on traffic the whole time.
I've only driven that way, like from Barstow to Vegas once, but usually it's coming the other way.
That Tehachapi Pass up to Fresno, when I was stationed down there, my kid in Fresno, like I was going once a month. And this is back on the Sportster. This is back when I was living the hard life. Yeah. I had this little Sportster and the backpacks and the sissy bars and strapping fucking God knows what to the fender. I think it's like 4 hours, like door to door where I was like going from. And I remember that was like a hard push. Now I kind of giggled going through there, and I'm like,
it's like now I know you're from California because you were all the way you basically rode your bike to Fresno and didn't even go to the ocean.
No.
You're used to it.
Yeah. Just going through that desert. Going through Tehachapi is always a lot of fun.
I always thought there's a Love's right there. That's where I broke down. We broke down there once. The main one we were doing a primary thing. I probably said it before, but we were doing Mason and Austin, the guys that went with us, they started playing like some old 90s dance music while I was trying to work on my primary. And they were Instagram live in this shit while I'm trying to work, and they're all fucking, doing a night at the Roxbury dancing and shit around me and shit.
They're enjoying it. Yeah. It's part
trying
of the
to
ride.
make it funner than it was. Right. But I like that.
That heat can get miserable down there.
Yeah. I always pass through there at night for some reason. It's always like the way it works.
It's a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
When I'd leave there during the wintertime and going through that Tehachapi, they would shut it down because you actually get snowfall down there. So I'd probably make it 2 hours to Tehachapi, and then it would fucking snow me out, and I'd have to turn around about an hour to make it back. Damn. To wait the next day to where they'd reopen the road. Because I'd try and leave, I only had like a 4-day weekend or something like that. Yeah. So I was trying to make the most out of it to get down there and actually spend some time. Going through there, I remember, I was layering gloves, fucking grabbing the motor, burning my, glove on the motor, just trying to make it because it gets down to like 15, wind chill factor. It gets cold down there.
Is that high?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then you add the wind chill to it, and it gets down to like probably 10 degrees, man. I was freezing my ass off trying to get through there. Yeah. And it's funny, now it gets down to like 30 degrees, and I kick on the heated stuff, and I'm still like, ooh, it's cold. Maybe I should take it in for the day. You know what I mean? Just getting older, getting softer.
So she went to Vegas. What was just?
I had a friend of mine that I know from California that moved up from San Diego that was out there. So I hadn't seen him for a while, and I really wanted to give him a hard time about not coming out to see me in Texas. He came down and saw me in San Diego. We have a joint friend in San Diego, and he just recently moved out of there. So we all met up down in San Diego for St. Patrick's Day last year. So now I hit one friend down there that needs to come out and see me, and I wanted to make a loop to see him again and make sure I saw him in some spot. I'm like, all right, you fuckers, like, I've come out to see you in your place. Like, it's time to make it out to Texas. And he was worried about like doing stuff, and I'm like, bro, I don't fucking care. I've been on the bike. What I'm gonna do is soak up your AC, use your pool. You guys go to work, do your thing, and I'll hang out. So I caught up on some rest, caught up some Netflix, and just kind of chilled out at the pool. And I was on vacation.
This was Monday night, right? Yeah,
it's about Monday night that I made it in there and stayed there Monday night. We went out on the strip. He came home. We went out on the strip. They got like that stratosphere wheel that goes around.
Is he pretty close to downtown, or is he like in Henderson? Or
no, he's down there. Okay. He's in the immediate like Las Vegas, not on the strip, but he's down there. So we did that stratosphere thing, which is, anybody goes to Vegas, that's the deal right there, because it's like $35 I think we paid to get onto it, and it's like $25 normal pass. It's $35 to do the all you can drink. Yeah, and it's like it's a 30-minute deal to go around, and you got your own bartender in there, and depending on how many people in there, you can turn a drink around pretty quick. So that was like the first stop. You get in there, we probably drank like 6 streaks on there, and just wandered around looking at different places. He's in the business down there. He works for one of the casinos. So then we popped into his casino, and we had a couple of drinks in there. He had like a member's card or whatever. We were getting like 20-30% off stuff. Nice. So we were enjoying that. Just doing the Vegas thing.
Every time I go to Vegas, I don't gamble at all. So
I don't gamble at all.
All I wanted to do was drink beer on the street. That's like since you can't do it just about anywhere else, it's like, I just want to walk down the street drinking beer. Like, so when we were at SEMA this last year, I told my wife, I was like, let's just go walk the strip. So I went and got a 12-pack, and I was just walking down the street with a 12-pack in my hand.
Anything goes in Vegas.
Redneck as fuck.
I think when I was going through that northern Las Vegas, I forgot where I was kind of at, and I saw like those massage parlors, and I finally came up on it, and it was like, it was all blacked out, but it was weird to just be driving along and see these big like Asian mama-san like massage, like different deals. You go out to this spot, and it's like, that's when you know you're in Vegas, when you see shit like that. Yeah, you don't see that anywhere else. But Vegas Strip's a Vegas Strip. I used to pass through a lot. My tattoo artist down there is where he's from. And he's got a shop there. So when I was in the military, I used to do my TDY trips. I'd stop through there, and I'd stay for like 2-3 days, get some work done. So I'm kind of over the Vegas thing. Plus, when I lived out in Fort Irwin, Barstow area, we'd go over there and hit. It's better at State Line. Things are more affordable at the State Line.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You get the same experience. You know what I mean? You go in, you fucking drink for cheap. There's buffets. We do that. We pull the bikes into some cheap hotel and fucking put them in, move the beds over, pull them in, and then we just go out and blast on the little area right there. It was cheap. So I stayed there for like 2 days, and then Tuesday night going into Wednesday, I left at midnight. I was lucky enough, he got a hold of a friend. It's all apartment kind of living down there. Mm-hmm. So a friend had a garage. He had a bike too. So he loaned us the garage. I was able to put it away. Vegas is like one of the main areas to get bikes stolen. Yeah. So every time I stop and I get, especially getting towards the West Coast and getting more populated areas, I'm constantly thinking about where I'm putting the bike, regardless of anything. Like we said, most people don't recognize what it is. And, it's got a nice paint job, but it looks like some kind of import. So most people are looking past it. But you never know what kind of crackhead's going to walk by and just want to take it. So it was nice to have it secure for the night. Took off at midnight, which it was still 91 degrees, like riding.
So you left at night to try to avoid the heat.
Yeah,
it's a hot pass from there to Kingsman.
It wasn't too bad to make it out to Phoenix. It was probably like only a 5-hour ride, but it still took me a good amount of time because I ended up not being able to sleep during the day, and then I didn't want to be asleep napping when him and his chick got home. You know what I mean? It just kind of seems rude to do. So I was up with them. We were bullshitting, had dinner and stuff like that. So I really didn't I got maybe like an hour nap from like 10 to 11, and I was back on the bike. So I hit it for a couple hours, and I was like, I was so tired. I was out there fucking crossing lanes, trying to watch movies and shit like that, and it's just pitch black. Then it was getting colder and colder, ended with a flannel to a jacket. I found like some gas station in the middle of nothing out there that I pulled over, and like it's got like some bench next to it. And I did this twice actually. Just fucking crashed out.
Yeah, dude, I tell people all the time, man. Like, I've crashed out in like truck stops. You know, like certain truck stops have trucker lounges.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you kind of got to leave your bike out there, but usually people ain't gonna steal it right in the middle of
The weather was nice enough to where like I literally
Yeah.
like, just had like a table out there and just crashed out on the table.
I've done that too with my fat ass and old asses. Like, I laid on it. Me and Jesse were driving to Sturgis, and we stopped at like a park, or not a park, but like a rest stop.
Yeah.
Just to take like a 30-minute nap or some shit. And
Right.
I laid on that table, and I got my sleep in, and I went to wake up, and I went to do a sit up. My back just said, "Rrr." And I was like, "Fuck! Like, is this gonna go away?" It went away like a couple miles down the road, but I was
Right.
like, I could not move, man. It was just bad. So,
It's amazing how tired you can be, and like you can find a good spot on the side of the road. You're fine.
dude, we were riding to Born Free last year when we all left Dallas. We left early, like I always do. We got out there like right before like Childress or something, going on 287. Just pulled over and slept on the grass. Just like laid a fucking picnic blanket out, and we were all just chilling on the grass. It was still early morning, so it was pretty cool outside.
Right.
Dude, it was perfect.
I think that's the thing with riding other people, and I in the car on the bike, I'm like a baby. That motor puts me to sleep. So there's sometimes like I can go like a couple hours, no problem. There's other times like 20 minutes down the road, and I'm fucking falling asleep.
The bad part's when you go on, you do a stretch, and you're like, holy shit, like, was I asleep that whole time, or was I conscious? And maybe you get in a thought, and you're just going through the motions of riding a bike or whatever. But I've done that before, and it just scares the fuck out of me. Like, dude, like I don't know if I was asleep or not.
I was pretty lucky. I didn't run into any wildlife. There was no close calls. Like this whole trip was pretty smooth in that aspect. Going through the different towns, I never had any close calls or anything like that. I was pretty lucky. Because you get into some of those desert areas, who knows what's running across the road, and you got some wild hog or fox or something like that, and you only got as far as that headlight goes.
The further you get up in those mountains and shit, you start getting elk and stuff. We've seen elk on the side of the highway before.
You hit one of those, it's
done.
over with.
Yeah, he's not even moving.
No, they're gonna bury you guys together.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a hot mess.
So when did you make it into Phoenix? How early was it, or was it mid-afternoon kind of thing?
No, it was. I made it in there finally. It was probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then met up with those guys at FXR Division. They were awesome, man. They fucking brought me right in, brought the bike in, showed me their whole setup. Which was totally cool to see. Not making it down to Born Free. I've seen all the pictures of the bikes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they're.
I think
creating.
their Softail was probably one of the most innovative. I still feel like if they had more time, I think it would have been 10 times sicker.
So, what they were telling me, there's some. Everybody's building those M8s or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're showing what they're doing with them, and Born Free was just kind of an expedition or
Yeah, it's all for Harley though.
Yeah, so the big show I think is in August.
Yeah, it's the 115th in Milwaukee. Yeah.
Right, so that's their actual deadline. So anything they didn't really need, this was just for fun to show off what they're working on. But yeah, that show in August is what they were saying was when it's all actually got to be done. Because they were pointing out like their paint wasn't done on it. The handlebars, I don't even think the forks were the actual forks they were using on it. They were just getting it out there just to rolling to show what they were doing. But seeing some of their FXRs, they got like an FXR like road glide that they were working on. You seen that one with that aluminum tank?
Yeah.
Man, that thing is like, it's like a mountain bike. You could lift the whole thing up. It's so light. Yeah,
light.
Yeah, it's really
like
like
retarded on the road. Then.
I don't know what he was talking about, the metals that he's using on that thing, and I don't know any of that stuff. But when you sat on it, it was so well balanced.
Yeah.
That's the one that I can't wait to see. That one's going to be awesome. Just because
they got some badass stuff that they do up there, man.
It's a cool blend between like the FXR and a bagger. You know what I mean? Like the best of both worlds. As much as I don't like the bagger lifestyle, I can't get away that I like the bags. You know what I mean? Like that's I want those bags.
There's definitely a comfort in it, and it's just about looking at the bike from a different perspective.
Yeah. Being able to appreciate, the work that somebody puts into it, and it's actual work. This is, they're engineering, they're machining their parts and stuff like that. That's regardless if I did or didn't like the bike, you can appreciate the work that they're putting into it.
That's cool.
But they had all kinds of bikes they were working on. Had that black with like the red, white, and blue like stripes on it, which I think was the Born Free colors.
Yeah, that was a cool one. Actually, a good dude, Flying Iron Designs, painted that thing. It's a pretty cool paint job. Yeah,
real basic, but at the same time it stood out. And that's I was checking out their bags. I want to do a set of their bags, but they fitted me up. Got one of the bars like set up. It took like a couple hours for them to kind of fit it up and get what they wanted out of it, because they want to build their table off it and start producing those.
Yeah.
and that was the hard push was after that. Now it's like 3 o'clock or something like that. Now I got to leave in like the middle of like the day.
So where was your next stop from there? You didn't want to stay in Phoenix, or?
I looked at the KOAs at that area, and they were more expensive in that area. They got a lot nicer, but at the same time, you know, it was like $100 for like the same like cabin that I was paying like $60 for. So I was priced them, and the further I got out of town, it was like I finally found like the cabin back at like $60. Middle of nowhere. I don't even remember. I think it was like Wendover or something like that. It was like where I stayed.
Yeah, like right before you get into New Mexico.
Yeah. Nothing out there.
I stay in Benson a lot. Like, there's hotels are real cheap there, so whenever I've stayed in there quite a few times in Benson, which is where you could cut down to go see Tombstone from there. It's like the first major town past Tucson, headed back towards.
I want to say, now that you bring that up, I want to say that's where I camped was in Benson. I remember seeing the Wendover.
Yeah.
On the map, but I think looking when I did that
Wendover's not that big. Like, there's not a lot. There's like some truck stops there.
I don't think any of it out there is very big. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't much to it. But the KOA was cool. Again, you get to a place that's more secluded like that, they have more amenities. So they had like full cable, the AC. They had a small fridge to keep stuff cold in there, which the other ones were just basic, like an AC bed. That's all AC you get. Bed, yeah. You know what I mean? Which when you at that point is all you really need.
Yeah.
But, you know, I ended the night kind of early there, so it was nice to, again, each time I went to one of those, stop at a local gas station, pick a couple beers, you know what I mean? Like, just kick back. They got little benches in the front or swings, you know? I'm just vacationing it up, you know? I went to some little pizza shop there. It was actually pretty good, you know? Nice. Some mom and pop type place. Again, I'm sitting there planning the next day, looking at the map, where am I going to go? I think I got like I want to say it was like a 12-hour push to get home. At this point, maybe doing 8 hours is like the end of my day. You know what I mean? Like just I'm beat. You know what I mean? As much as I'm still enjoying it, now I'm getting into the heat.
Dude, so from there, did you push home?
Yeah, the next stop.
I do that every time, and I hate myself for it.
Oh, it was like 18 hours. I didn't ride for 18 hours, but the amount of time that I was on the road, it was like 18 hours.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Like come push to shove. I didn't feel like it was going to be right to stop like 3 hours from the house.
Yeah, you know, it's not so much that. It's just that, like, for me, and I don't mean to, like, butt into your story, but for me, I get so enthusiastic about getting to California and doing the major things.
Yeah.
And I plan small things on the way home. Like I always, like, I've only ridden through this once, but I always, like, instead of staying on 10 all the way home, I always want to cut through Las Cruces, up over the mountains, go into White Sands, which I've done before, Alamogordo, and all that crazy shit. It's really nice riding before you get into Texas, and then it's just flat again. You know what I mean? But
I stopped at the Harley shop. It was like one of the, I don't know, they had the sign for like, was it
biggest Harley?
Yeah, it was at
Barnett's or something like that.
Yeah. So I saw the signs for it, so I made sure to like stop there. It was a pretty big shop.
Yeah.
It was nice. They had some couches in there and kind of hung out there.
How'd you like Mexico, like riding by that fence and seeing all that third world next?
You know, I was coming through that whole area and it didn't. I couldn't tell the difference between like what was Texas, what was Mexico. Like it was just so secluded out there.
Yeah.
It's so just wide open desert.
Yeah.
Leaving Barnett's, there was like a part that I'm coming and I can see the road, you know, for probably like 60 miles in front of me. It's just flat, and all of a sudden I see this big like dust storm coming through. I'm like, I don't need none of that. I mean, this looks like a little mini tornado pushing through, and it's just blowing all the sand and everything through. So I'm on this road doing 15 miles an hour, just kind of putting along, just watching this train. I'm like, and at the same time, this whole trip I've had beautiful weather. Now it's starting to rain on me. I'm getting little trickles. The sky is turning black. I'm like, well, you know, it was good while it lasted. You know, at some point, I guess I'm going to get hit with some weather. But it ended up holding up pretty well. I missed that little storm and I pushed past it. But yeah, there wasn't anything out there. There was nothing the whole time. It was probably like 10 o'clock at night. I pulled over, like, I had to nap again. Like, I just couldn't take it. Like, I was so exhausted at that point. But here I'm 4 hours from the house. I'm like, I just don't.
You're probably like just on the other side of Abilene at this point.
Something like that.
Yeah, like Big Spring or some shit.
I finally made it home, and it was like 2 a.m. when I finally like pushed back in.
I know that feeling. And see, the thing is, on my future trips, I want to try to stop doing that, because on the trip, you justify, like, I just want to get home. I'm ready to get home now. But 2 months later, for me, I'm like, man, I really wish I would have just
wasted some time.
Used the time that I set aside for me to do this trip and really went through and through with it. You know, because there is cool shit in between here and there, but it's not the fastest way home.
Right.
And when, like I said, once you get to that furthest destination, the ride home ends up you end up like you're on the bike and you start making sacrifices. Like that's not that important to me.
Right.
It's not that important to me. When realistically, it's like you got to get in your head and say, no, enjoy this the same way you enjoyed it the first day you left the house. And that's one thing that I've made a mistake on every time I go, and I keep wanting to change it. It's like every time I go to Sturgis, I'm like, I'm going to leave 2 days early, and I'm going to go west and then come home. No, I stay there, or I'll either leave 2 days early and just blast home in one day.
Right.
You know, so it's like, that's the one thing that I hate myself for is not, if I take 14 days, use 14 days, you know, because even though like you might be burnt out, but you still could, there's still more experiences out there to have. And you had to fucking get that vacation for a year.
A year ahead, yeah.
You know, so, you know, for me, it might be more frivolous, but at the same time, you know, I don't really have vacations, so I'm losing and paying to be
right.
on this trip. So, but yeah, that's the only thing that I ever, you know, hate myself for.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, I really didn't know enough about that area. In all fairness, it was so flat.
Yeah. Like
it didn't seem like there was anything. If I would have come off my route and made more out of it, yeah, I could have done another couple
like
of days.
Every year, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just stay on 10 and drop down and see Big Bend or Marfa or some of these cool towns on the south side. But you see that 20 exit, man. It's like, fuck, that's a straight shot home, man. And
you know, in all honesty, I was pretty saddle sore at this point.
Yeah.
Like I was starting to feel my shoulder blades were starting to hurt a little bit. I was starting to feel my age a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why I always wonder about the people that do these trips that are like go out for months at a time. You know, I'm like, I mean, eventually we'll get someone like that on here, and those are the kind of things I want to know what they think about. How do they keep their enthusiasm on a trip and not just get homesick or get, you know, over it and just want to get back to the house, you know, because it happens to a lot of us, man.
Well, I think it's a level of pushing. This is the first time I've done, you know, at the end of it, I did 11 days. I think I crossed like 9 state lines, and it was 4,000 miles. You know what I mean? So it's the first time I've done that amount of riding. But going back to, you know, there was a point where 4 hours was the longest, you know, time I'd ridden. You know what I mean? So getting to that level of being gone
it's
longer
a
and
baby
longer.
step,
Yeah, you know, now you know what you're gonna need, what you don't need. You know, when you pack like that and you're gonna be gone for months, you got to think about, you know, rain jackets and stuff like that. You know, there's so many different climates you're going to hit and how to pack that stuff down. So not only is there the comfort level, but there's, again, more gear you got to think about doing too. That's going to make it comfortable to where you just don't want to be miserable the whole time, you know?
Yeah, and that's completely fair. You know, like I said, it's just one of those deals. Like I want to go out on a longer trip because 11 days, 12 days is kind of like my max. I usually do that. Even when I go to Sturgis, like after that, I'm kind of ready to be home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, I'm like, man, like I want to go out for a month. I want to go out for 14 days or 15 days. I just want to do it like that. But like the way you did the beginning of the trip is the way I want to do all mine, and that's the plan from here on out.
Right.
You know? So it's like I really want to ride to Maine, and I want to see the whole eastern seaboard. You know, as much of it as I can from like North Carolina.
I'd love to see it. To be honest, their weather scares me out there.
It does.
Because you never know what you're getting out there.
Yeah, for sure. But there's a small window of opportunity to be out there and stuff.
Right.
But, you know, like a southern, like maybe like go 20 east, cut up like the way I went to Tennessee, and like from Birmingham into Chattanooga into Tennessee into West Virginia, over to Virginia, see Washington, D.C. Because I've been in North Carolina plenty of times, so there's nothing I want to see there. And then basically use the Washington, D.C., New York, New Jersey, all that shit I can see. I think Pennsylvania or fucking Philly's not too far from all that, you know.
Right.
And then kind of go up and then go into Maine and then come back on the western side of the states and kind of follow through like Lake Erie. And
yeah,
all
I mean,
that
the
shit.
direction I went was totally a safe direction. Even though I didn't know the areas that I was going to be in, you know, I'm from the West, so I kind of know
It's home.
my general areas at least. Going out that direction, going east, there's nothing I know out there. So that's even a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? I don't know the states, what to expect or anything. You know what I mean?
It's like I know a lot of people out there, but I'm not as familiar with the states. So when someone says, "Oh, I'm here," I'm not as, you know, all those states are small and jumped up together.
Right.
So you're like, "Fuck, where's that in correlation to this and that?" And so it gets hard to plan those trips. And then, you know, you also like, even though like the more that I do these trips, the more friends I'm making and the more places I have to just, you know, stay and crash, which is also equally as cool as being able to camp out because you get to hang out with someone in their environment and shit. But
you know, it was nice to stay with people, but at the same time, I didn't like inconvenience people.
yeah, I don't like that either. That's the thing I was going to get to. Yeah, the inconveniencing.
It's definitely, no matter how rough it was camping, or how nice it was camping, it was still better to be on my schedule and not mess with anybody. Regardless of what anybody says, like, you're still inconveniencing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you're in their bubble. So it was nice to be at the campsites and not interfere with anybody. If I want to sleep in, if I want to get up super early, you know what I mean? Like, it was all on me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about anybody else.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, every time I stayed with somebody else, then you're in their living conditions too. You know what I mean? Like, seeing behind the scenes, you know, of what they're living in, whether it's good or bad. Which, you know, I saw, like, you post when you went to California, like, anybody got a bed open? I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I know.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I don't know
cool.
how to get out of it. I show up to your house, I'm like, nope, this is not my standard. Like,
Well, we had an Airbnb that we had to do that too, and that was pretty sketchy. But I mean, the people that reached out and said that we could stay with them, you know, one of them, it was one of my customers from NorCal. He was out of town. He just said my house is open. I just went up there. You know, it was in Sonoma County, or Sonoma, the town. I just hung out there. It was cool.
It's a pretty area too.
He was on the foothill, so he had a big ass view. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and then another painter from like Tracy area hit me up and said I could stay with him too. But you know, it was kind of like, okay, well, I know this guy personally, where we're gonna stay, and they're not there, so it's not gonna be awkward.
Right.
You know, and you know, we were respectful. We just stayed, slept on the couch, took a shower, left it exactly how we came, went to the next place. You know, and that's always, I don't know. I thought that was cool, but I think it's cool to be able to do that because I also try to do that for my friends when they're passing through. I did it more when I had my house. Now I have a 1-bedroom apartment, so it's a little bit more complicated. They might be seeing my life a little too close from that angle.
Right.
But at the same time, I'll still offer it because you know, fuck it, man. You know, it's a cool thing.
So, you know, sometimes when you get on the trip, you know, financially too, it gets expensive to stay at a hotel. You know what I mean? It's $130 or something like that on average. You know, to bed down somewhere.
Yeah, and you got to be tired as fuck to accept the $30 ones. You just got to be like, you know what, I don't give a shit. We did a $30 motel in fucking I think Roswell, New Mexico, and it was just like, fuck it, dude. It's a bed. It like all sank to the middle of the bed. It was.
Yeah, I think for $30, I'd rather sleep on the ground outside. God knows what kind of murders have happened in a $30 motel.
You don't even take your clothes off. You don't even sleep in. You just sleep in your clothes. You know, wake up, take a very precise shower, and
without touching nothing.
Don't touch anything. Yeah, but no, I don't know, man. I like all that stuff. I like. Obviously, I like to talk, so I like being able to talk to people. Sometimes when you're on a bike for a long time, you know, you get wrapped up in a lot of different ideas and thoughts and shit like that. And sometimes it's nice to just be able to, you know, listen to someone else for a while to get out of your own head. You know what I mean? And listen to someone else tell a story. Kind of like the guy that was telling you about it, spreading ashes and stuff like that, you know?
See, and I was the opposite. You know, I was out there on my own. And, you know, a normal day-to-day, I'm constantly around people. You know what I mean? Constantly talking, having to do with other people's thoughts, their problems and issues, and I really liked being out by myself. Yeah, you know, people are like, "Well, you didn't take anybody with you. You didn't take your wife with you. This and that." And like, nope, nothing. You know, I didn't know how long I was going to be gone. I didn't know where I was going, and it was just me by myself. So whatever problems I had, whatever good times I had, it was just me. You know what I mean? So I really, it was almost weird when I did run into people and started like talking with them, because then I'm like, I so much rather would have just been sitting here fucking staring at the mountain by myself drinking beers, you know? It was kind of a blended feeling.
I think I'm more, when I do those, I'm more, like, I don't, like, when I do, like, I've been trying to do more Instagram videos and shit like that, but I don't like talking on them, like, with the video. Yeah. Or I don't really like talking on them at all. Like, here, I don't mind because
it's just you and me talking, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel weird.
But when I'm out on those trips, I don't mind getting on there going, I feel like I'm talking to somebody, you know,
I haven't gotten to that point. I take the pictures, but I haven't done the videos. When I stopped at that Black Rifle Coffee, I was sitting on the couch, and really there wasn't much to do there, so I was just drinking their coffee, just kind of relaxing. It was pretty hot. And then all of a sudden, their owner, Evan, comes out, and, you know, this guy's like ex-Special Forces, like, and he's just huge into media right now. So again, going back to that thing of like, this guy's like way up there, you know what I mean? Like, no way I could like see this guy, which I was hoping to run into some of those guys out there. But as I was sitting there, he comes out and I heard his voice, and he was talking coffee with this dude. Like, I'm literally listening to him like talk coffee with one of like his brewers. I'm like, oh shit. I felt so weird to ask. I'm texting my wife, like, I feel weird like asking this guy for a picture. Another guy, like, I want to take a picture with him. Yeah. But I finally like got enough nerve up to it to ask him, you know, like, hey, and he's like, oh, cool, you know, one of their people there took a picture. But it's like, you know, I really would have regretted making it all that way and not gotten a picture with you know, somebody from that company.
I think that's cool though. I'm the same way. Like, I hate when I meet people that I dig and I don't get a picture with him because. I mean, I don't know if it's because I want to show people that I know this
There's
person.
some big names in this area, and I feel I don't want to bug people. Running to Jeff Holt randomly out here, you know what I mean? Like, you're in the industry. I'm just a dude that reads a magazine, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm seeing this dude, I'm totally geeking out. Oliver Peck, I think, like, the first, like, month I got here, I was at, like, some bike thing or whatever, and there's Oliver Peck, you know what I mean? I've only seen him on TV, regardless of what anybody else thinks. This is somebody I've seen on TV. Yeah. Like, he's a Hollywood star, you know what I mean?
It's still the same way. Like, when I see people that are on TV, regardless, like, when I was fucking riding next to Carrie Hart on the fucking hot bike tour, I was kind of like, am I supposed to be fanboying this guy right now? Like, I didn't know how I was supposed to act.
Right.
And then we were sitting next to each other at fucking Outback Steakhouse. I'm like, this dude's married to Pink.
Is it respectful to like shine those people on? Like I don't like to act like I kind of like know who you are, but I don't really care. Is that more respectful, or is it totally like, shit?
I'm not like geeking out because I'm a huge fan of him. I think it's some of the shit he's done for motorcycles is cool. I think
it's just cool being around people that are that big in the world. I'm fucking nobody, and here's somebody that's like all over. You know what I mean? Like you said, he's married to Pink. He's famous on his own, and here you are just having dinner,
just riding bikes with fucking bikers. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing. Like I found myself around people. I know recently I was somewhere and I was really having a fanboy problem, and I don't know what it was. I can't really recall where I was, but it was something this year. And I'm just drawing a complete blank, and I might remember it and say it later. But yeah, it's like you get around people, and it's like I said, man, I feel like I wish that I took more pictures with my friends, and that's basically what it is. Like, even if it's not someone super famous, but just somebody in the bike industry that I know that I became friends with.
There's a difference between the famous in the world and the famous in our world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's somebody that like you really respect, or you like their work, or just like they're big in the industry, and you're like, damn, I just want to show other people like, oh, look what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. It was a painter. The last time I was in Cali, I was at my boy Valley Custom Shop, and there was a pinstriper that was there. That he's on Instagram. He's not like super active on it, but I've always geeked out on his work. Like his work is fucking amazing, and he's right there. And I'm like, I don't want to like nerd out and go talk to him, so I'm just kind of letting conversations naturally take place. But I dropped hey man, I follow you on Instagram. You know what I mean? It was just cool to meet him, and he was super cool, super chill dude. And it's like that kind of shit to me is fun because that dude's his work has influenced mine. So to me, he's a fucking like you said in our industry or our corner of the universe.
It's our world, you know what I mean? This is what we live day in and day out.
I think the first time I met Jeff Holt, I was a little bit like that, but
I think the first time I saw him was at that. Mark was there. They had that show. It was the first FXR show
at the tech or at
Cowboy. Yeah, he was there, dude. I just put like those Deviant like clamshell bags, and he's like over there checking my bike. Like the bikes that this guy looks at, and like where he is in the industry, like he's actually like stopping and looking at my bike. Like I was totally like just a little kid, like so happy. You know what I mean? Like it was Christmas Day for me. Like he's actually looking at my bike, but
yeah.
To ask those guys for pictures, like, nah, fucking totally takes like the manliness out of it. Like, hey, you want to take a picture with me?
I did, when I was in the bagger stuff, who Paul Tracy is, an old IndyCar driver, but he's like has a company doing big wheel bagger stuff. And like I said, I was never huge into racing cars and shit, but this dude is a fucking world class racer, a lot of fucking awards. He's a fucking 18, like he announces on TV now for like IndyCar and all the different racing series. And the dude, like a lot of the bagger stuff I used to buy from him because he had a company that made parts. And the first time I was in Arizona where they shot the cover, where I got the cover of that American bagger back there, he pulled up on the deal. He saw my bike. He's like, hey man, I just want to say hi. And I was like,
he wants to say hi to you.
Yeah, but I mean, like I was more geeking out over him. I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's take a picture. And I had my big wheel bagger bro kit going on, so I had my bandana with my fucking hat over it, looked like 50 Cent and shit, and I was it was a cool deal, man, meeting him. It's the same thing with a lot of people in the industry, man, like you said earlier, man,
that's what I forgot. After I left FXR division, who's down the road from them?
Dixon.
Yeah, Dixon. So I totally forgot about that. I blew through there. I'm like, I'm in town, and I knew they were in Phoenix, so I looked them up prior to going there, and so they're like 20 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
And actually, I would have missed FXR division. Like they'd taken down all their promo stuff to take to Born Free. So when I showed up their address, there was nothing there. And And then I come around like the backside, and there's a Dixon flannel like truck. I'm like, I must be somewhere in the right area. Well, I come up on the gate, and they come out and get me. But after I left there, I went over to Dixon. Those guys were fucking awesome too. Like,
did you meet Justin and all that?
No, nobody was there. Everybody was out for whatever reason. But you know, they had their back shop. Even in their back shop where they got that picture and everything, and they've got their offices on those cargo containers.
We did a podcast in one.
Oh,
of the
that's
cargos,
right. Yeah. That setup is totally cool in there. You know, it's just to open it up and see that. But I mean, those guys were awesome. I went to their little retail area. They brought me some water. You know what I mean? Like, asked me about my trip. And then I asked them, I'm like, hey, can I get a picture in your shop? So I was able to pull the bike in, and I got their big Dixon flannel deal in the deal.
Well, that's what's cool about that shop, and that's the thing. I guess why before we were talking, when I was talking about how I'm so all over the place with my ideas of how I want to move my business.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, I know guys like that. I've been in their shops, and I'm fucking, like, I'm inspired by it. I like the fact that when I'm riding through Phoenix, like, I want to stop and see Dixon's warehouse.
Right.
Pick up a flannel, or a T-shirt, whatever is cool, It's the same thing. It's like you become this destination, and for guys like me that like to travel on a bike, it gives me a reason to stop in this town. If all of a sudden Dixon Flannel was in fucking Pueblo, then you might have fucking stopped there, or maybe different places like that.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's kind of that is real cool.
So I think it's cool to see places like that. Some dude that was nobody, and now we all want to see him. You know what I mean? We want his product, and I mean to go from having nothing and struggling, and now like that dude's in the end. I've said that about them. Watching them come up a little bit. I don't really know their whole story, but just watching how big and how popular that's been. I mean, I grew up with flannels. You know what I mean? Like just being from California, it's no big deal. But watching this one brand, how popular it's become. Like, God, don't we all want to quit our jobs and like do something like that? You know what I mean? Like, you find that one niche that gets you to where everybody wants a piece of your business. You know what I mean? Wants to invite you to stuff, wants to come and see your shop. That's the dream right there.
It is the dream, and those are the kind of things that we think about a lot too, because you get, it can also be a trap, because the thing is that he found something, he was able to look into something that was as overlooked as a flannel, right?
Yeah.
And he was able to rebrand a couple things for a while until he got the money and the capital to really have his own cut and sew type situation, which a lot of us don't look at. Like, I'm into flannels, not like, it's got to be like your buddy out in Fresno, that's eat, sleep, shit, fucking, the
all
garden.
about it. Yeah.
And those are the guys that are paying attention to things that
it
just
amazes
overlook.
me that it's a flannel. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how many other companies make flannels? We all got to have that one, though.
He marketed it right. He marketed it to all the type of people, like imagine when Famous Stars and Straps came out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Everybody and their fucking mom had a Famous Stars and Strap, and I saw it from being, not that I was ever in it, but I used to ride sport bikes to like mini truck events.
Yeah.
And you see a couple little dudes with Famous Stars and Strap, and then this is right at the birth of social media. So you have MySpace coming out, and then you get your little cursor could be a Famous F and all this crazy shit back then.
Right.
So it was like the marketing was to our generation and our culture, and that's what Dixon Flannel did with the lowrider scene, with the truck scene in general, the C10s and all the trucks, and then the Dyna FXR and just Harley generation. And it also speaks to the working class, people, and that's what he hit the nail on the head with, like, capitalizing off of that. And then now he's branching it off so that he's not only making money in the cooler months. Now he's got the summer wear coming out and the different T-shirts all year. And I mean,
it's just cool to see somebody find their niche like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's the other one? The Rusty Butcher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just building his company up from nothing. You know what I mean? To where everybody wants a piece of that. Just seeing these guys come, and you're like, fuck, what can I find? What you're looking around your house, like, what do people need that I can like give them?
Can I do a special line of irons, make them edgy,
Right?
tattoo, wraps on them and shit? No,
Something like that.
I've had this conversation. Me and Mark talk about this stuff a lot. From Texas before, and we have these type of conversations, and it's like, yeah, there's a part of you that when you see these people, that you get this like notion that there's got to be something that you have close that you can market that way. But realistically, man, I think that like Rusty Butcher and his story. I mean, he's always been in the kind of fashion industry. He built a brand before the Rusty Butcher. And he kind of bought he bought the name Rusty Butcher. He did all that stuff, and his marketing and stepping out of the box and you know, taking something as simple as a t-shirt company and putting so much flavor to it,
Right.
with the way he rides his bikes and the way he builds his bikes and the way he carries himself.
What's how they're finding you're cool yourself, that there's certain people that they're going to find you cool and that they want a piece of what you have, or you find somebody else to wear your stuff that's cool, that's in the industry that like, oh man, they're doing that, I gotta have a piece of that too. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like, you know, we've been talking forever about branding the fast life, you know, like a more of a t-shirt clothing kind of thing, but not like a clothing business.
Yeah.
But just so that people, it's the same reason like Dine American or our little DFW Diner Crew. It's like it's like waving a flag that like-minded people. It's the same reason I was just thinking about this on 4th of July. You know, I'm hanging out. I have a Dixon 4th of July shirt that I bought 2 years ago, and that's like the only thing I have. But then I started looking at all these clothing companies that make, you know, 4th of July related clothing, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. I wish that I would have, you know, had an unknown 4th of July shirt, you know, a little American flag or whatever, and it just, you know, it's like you're having the patriotism of like 4th of July, but you're also staying to your, you know, what you're into.
Right.
It's the same thing like with St. Patrick's Day. People come out with green shit.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't know if there's a Christmas shit, but, you know, it's just, to me, that shit's cool. And, like, the reason why we've been thinking about doing stuff is that we want people that dig our brand, whether it's the paint stuff or the writing stuff. Or
Well, it's able to wear
whatever.
something on a daily basis that kind of tells people that, you know, that's what you're about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see it and you're like, oh, you're into Dinah's, this thing. You know what I mean? Like, however little faint it is and most people won't see it, somebody that's into it notices it and you're like, oh, we're into the same kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of gravitate towards those people, so you're just kind of representing yourself and what you're about.
I've always felt like it's more, it makes more sense. I would rather wear a shirt from, you know, just somebody in the industry, whether it's an actual shop or a t-shirt that's kind of marketed to our industry, than, you know, like a polo shirt. I mean, like a Ralph Lauren. Like, I mean, trust me, I grew up wearing that type of shit and I get it, but I don't feel like I'm representing what I'm into. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's, you know, I was listening to you and Jeff Holtz talk on one of your podcasts, and like that was one of the conversations. You know what I mean? It used to be like just Harley shirts that you could wear that show that you ride Harleys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now you're able to pick, you know, these different brands to show a little more about your flavor, your style.
Maybe you're into Rusty Butcher and, you know, they eat shit and fuck you and all this type of stuff, or maybe you're into Dixon's, which has much more of a party vibe flavor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you got, you know, your Rebel Reaper is another company out of Phoenix that's doing a lot of, you know, cool kind of.
I really like that Rogue American Apparel down in Austin.
Yeah.
I wear a lot of their stuff. I like, you know what I mean? That's a cross between me wearing like the Dyna stuff and got some of the military flavor to it. You know what I mean? Like crossing that stuff.
Yeah.
Again, that's more of my lifestyle. You know what I mean? So finding these companies that there's more of them now that you can do that with and show more your personality as opposed to just wearing just the Harley shirt.
It's a lot of different types of dynamics too that starts to make sense because we have a free engine to market to people across the world, right? So instead of like, you know what, hey man, we don't have, like, imagine a world with no social media, me and you talk and we're like, hey, let's open up a shirt selling t-shirts. All right, so we open it, we have to have a storefront. And we got to put an ad in the newspaper.
Right.
Or we got to get something like a magazine or something. We got to pay a shit ton of money to be in a magazine.
It's probably got to be on the right side of town in order to market towards the people.
Yeah, it's
got to
be in a trendy area where people were just like, they go to as a destination and then they see your shit. Now we can have a fucking garage t-shirt printing operation, print our own shit up, have multiple artists like everybody else is doing all over the country that design t-shirts and just, you know, hey, check out this new Darren McKee fucking shirt that we just had done, or this, you know, this Carlos Sanchez, or all these different badass artists. There's just a lot more of a market to it. But
I remember, you know, that's with bike parts. Like, I'd go to eBay when I first was like buying parts, just because like I could find stuff that was going to be across the country that was popular, you know, on the East Coast that I was going to find somebody here riding with. You know what I mean? That being able to have that social media, the internet now, like you can find stuff that's popular. It's cool to see, you know, I live on Instagram with somebody from like Thailand, like I was saying, like hits a like on them. I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how popular things can be. And then you're seeing stuff in like Switzerland or something like that. Fuck the haters. I forget where they're out of. You know what I mean? Like they're somewhere over in like England or something like that. But you can get a shirt from them or something like that. You know what I mean? They're marketing to us just the same. Yeah.
See, and the only thing that I can really associate that we sell that's like that is our helmet paint jobs, and that's honestly just exactly what it's been since our first podcast with Simpson. And I've kind of told people about how helmets are to me. Like my Samuel Jackson helmet, I would never sell that because that's my last year. I don't have that gold FXR anymore, but I have the helmet that I wore while I rode that bike.
Right.
So after talking about that for a while and talking about how I do a new helmet every year that kind of that's like my timeline for life and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get a lot of people that want helmets and like, they see the work that we're doing on them and they want a helmet just like if it was a t-shirt. Just like, man, I got one of those Fast Life Garage helmets.
Right.
And it's super fucking honoring, but it's just like one of those deals. Like, man, I'd love to sell something that's maybe only like $20 instead of $1,500. That way it'd be a little bit more like everybody can be involved and show support or if they want to or not. But
it's a good business card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're wearing it over and over. You know what I mean? They're putting it out there. It's going to the rides. It's in the industry. It's showing up at whatever events we go to and somebody's got that shirt on. You know what I mean? It says something about them. It's, they're putting your name out there. It definitely helps to get that type of stuff out there. Not everybody can afford that $1,200,
Exactly, and that's kind of that's what we've always talked about. And the other thing, like I've listened to, a lot of the people who are telling us to get in this podcast and do the Patreon stuff that we do. One dude was like, man, like just imagine like let's just say you have 20,000 followers on Instagram. Let's just say that you have 6,000 people that listen to your podcast. If you can get all 6,000 of those people to just donate $1 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making $50,000 a year doing podcasts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's insane.
And realistically, with social media and the internet the way it is, yeah. And if that was the case, if I was making that kind of money doing this shit, you'd be getting 3 podcasts a week.
Right.
And maybe
I listen to Joe Rogan a lot.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like that's how people make their money. It's just sitting here, just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
That's how you make a living.
And it's I mean, I've heard rumors, but I've heard that he makes up to like 70-something grand per podcast.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, man, I would probably, if I had that big of thing, which I would like to, but with talking about bikes, it gets to a point where you have to find a way to keep the conversation growing,
right,
and evolving. And when I listen to other podcasts that are motorcycle related, sometimes you kind of get a lot of our stories are similar, even though they have their differences as far as how I got into painting. It's usually pretty similar to the other guy that got into painting. But I have a painter following that want to hear each one of those stories. And then I have guys that are just into bikes or guys that are just into this because we do a lot of riding trips and we have this type of podcast. So you want to find a way, just like Joe Rogan. So he has his hunting group. He has his fucking MMA group.
Yep.
He has his
the comedians,
the weed, the comedians, the fucking the theories on life. I mean, he has so much content to talk about. I heard a podcast last week. It was the funniest shit in the world. They go, dude told me he's the Martha Stewart for men. It's the fucking truth.
It's all about marketing yourself, right? Finding that corner that somebody else hasn't touched.
Yeah, and so like I said, I mean, the more I can do for me personally, like the more involved I can be in motorcycles,
mm-hmm,
the happier I am. That's all I really want. I don't, I'm obviously don't. The motorcycle industry on our level is not a $1 billion industry or a multi-million-dollar industry. It's not. In certain areas it is for other, corporations and shit like that, but not for us. So it's like being able to just be a part of the industry helps shape it, or it helps shape us. All those different dynamics is
just being in it. You know what I mean? Just being able to wake up and you're dealing with motorcycles and you go out and your hobby is your business. You know what I mean? It's
stressful,
no doubt.
But it's taking a lot of growing pains because, like I was saying earlier, like you see Dixon's warehouse. And you're like, fuck, man, like that's where I got to be to be content or feel like I've made it. And so for a while you go through that kind of mindset, or I have, and it's like, you know what, you got to use those guys for motivation, but that's their life and that's their story and that's their situation. It's not yours. It doesn't mean that your little 1,500 square foot shop with cobwebs in the corners isn't good enough. It's just that, you're not selling flannels, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the accepting thing is that I've been going through that phase recently where I should be okay with this, but I feel like I should have a warehouse,
Everybody wants to be more successful. I'm sure he wants, to open up a second spot or something like that. You know what I mean? He's still struggling to get to the next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're looking at it through your eyes, and he's looking through his.
It's like that meme where the guy's in a wheelchair wishing that he could walk, and the guy that walks wish he had a bike, and the bike to, you know what I mean? It keeps going. So it is about being content and just being able to look at what you do have.
There's a point of being content, and you should have that drive to keep wanting to move to the next level, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To where you're not stressing yourself out too much, but having a good fire in your belly is always good, though.
I feel like that having such a big business, which like me and Matt were talking about this yesterday, having such a big business where you're building it to where you can have employees and you can have all this nice shit in a bigger shop and all this stuff, but it comes with more overhead, more headaches. The quality of work that you do, I don't think it's possible to get better. It gets worse because the time frame, everything just gets more overwhelming. You can't take 11 days off to go ride a bike, but bam, I do 4 helmets a month, paint 1 Dyna. I can handle that shit. I can handle that entire workload on my own.
Right.
And I can work, maybe I can have a whole week off a month and I can spend that with my kids or this. So is that a better success, or is it you go towards building that big ass shop and not being able to take off or feeling guilty when you take a Saturday off? Because
they said they didn't go to Born Free. They didn't have any product. They were sold out. They didn't have the time. They couldn't make it down there.
And like maybe growing, I've always talked with a lot of people about how, since what we do here is based on me picking up tape, airbrush, or a pinstripe brush, how do I get out of that position but still keep the integrity of what I've built? It's kind of all on my hands. And
it's true.
That's the other deal, and that's where maybe just using the brand that I'm building with the Fast Life and seeing if that can branch off into other areas that people are interested in, like the podcast or like some type of clothing or selling some type of products. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm going towards. I mean, I don't want to paint on a high level for the rest of, like on a high production level for the rest of my life, because painters have like windows of health, if you will. Like,
it's all dependent on your hands, right?
Yeah, it's depending on my hands. You breathing this shit every fucking day. Being in the paint booth, whether you're wearing a mask or not. Like, you open that can, you don't have your mask on, you're still breathing the fumes from it. So, I just don't want to be 45 years old and I spent the last 25 years of my life building something that I physically, for health reasons, cannot do anymore.
It's finding that side stuff, like you see tattooers doing those, doing the Van shoes, like they take the all white ones. I saw a dude the other day that he had like a panel design from his bike on his shoes. He just airbrush. It's little stuff like that you can do on the side. You take the week off from actually spraying some paint on the helmets or the tins, and you're doing smaller stuff like that, which every dollar counts, and you can knock out how many pairs of shoes. You know what I mean? And you can probably touch more people with that because it's more affordable.
Like I said, I want to do something I want to sell things that are more affordable to people so that, it can reach more people, and it's like the podcast. Like,
I think you gotta really lay down a schedule, you know what I mean? Like, all right, this week I'm going hard on helmets, next week I'm hitting hard on the tins, and then next week I'm doing shoes or I'm fucking shirts, whatever it may be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right now, like, August is my light at the end of the tunnel. I haven't taken in one job. I have not taken in one job since April. Everything that I've been doing since April and what I will be doing until probably August 15th
is all stuff that already been
was deposited or figured out before April.
Man, that's crazy.
And or in April. And it's like I got overwhelmed, and then I had all the setbacks that we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The moving, the bike being stolen, the wreck in the truck, and then
life's just coming around.
The everyday setbacks. And then, you just, like, I think I have a grasp now. I've built a name with the helmets, and I can make good money painting them, and I have a high demand. Like, every helmet I post, there's 10, 20, 30 people asking about helmets. And some of them, you tell them the price and you don't hear nothing. And other ones like, can I put money down now? And I'm like, nope. I'm not taking another helmet. I'm not taking a dime for another helmet paint job until the last helmet leaves. Some of these helmets, they've been waiting since April,
That's crazy.
And I feel so bad, but I mean, the thing is, and all of them say, like, dude, what you're doing on them is dope. And I'm like, I'm trying to do the best shit that I can within the parameters of what you want.
Right.
I don't want to put on any half-ass helmets, you know what I mean? And because I want that to be my bread and butter so that I can back down. I want to start welding more. I want to practice all these other skills, and I can't do that when I have
when you find
full
that time.
baggers,
Yeah. When you've got these jobs backed up.
I can bang out 3 helmets a week, dope. So technically, if I take 3 or 4 helmets in a month at the price that I need them to be, and if I really, like you were saying, go hard on helmets for a week and a half, technically all my bills are paid for the rest of the month. I can focus that time on podcasts or building a bike or welding, or maybe I can do a set of tins for somebody. But ultimately I can just kind of weed out the baggers, which even though they're good money to paint them, they just take up time.
Oh, I bet. The nooks and crannies, everything in it. Yeah.
And, there's so much time involved. There's no way I can do it alone. So, you're also dealing with the quality of another person working on the part. So it's a lot easier to handle all the quality of stuff when you're the only one touching it. But when
you can handle the pace of it a lot better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's on your schedule.
Yeah, you're not, you know what I mean? You're not, like I said, it's just, I feel like this is my only route to get anywhere I want to go outside of this. You know what I mean? So, and not to like turn this into like a me talking about what I've figured out in life, but shit, we're at 2 hours and 33 minutes, man. So what's the next trip, or what's the thoughts on the next trip you decide to take?
I definitely want to do it similar. You know what I mean? Talking to our local group, the DFW Dyna crew, maybe incorporating more people. So I've done it by myself now. So
Yeah.
I've checked that box. So maybe next time doing it with, some of the guys and whoever can get in, we're talking about, setting that time up. And I think that year in advance gives people enough time to, regardless.
Yeah, we were talking about doing the video thing with it.
And I was watching that Lowbrow Customs one, and what was it, the El Diablo run? It really reminds me have you seen the old like skate and surf videos?
Yeah.
Back in the day when we were kids? And they're still doing a Volcom and Quicksilver and stuff like that. It was right along with that, the way the music was done and everything. It was the same thing. I think something like that, basically doing the same thing that I did this time, just with a group of people, and then videotaping it, you know what I mean? Like just putting it down and seeing like if other people would enjoy it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And regardless if anybody else likes it, each one of us would
cherish it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's something that we can actually show to other people. That's what we did.
We were talking about it Tuesday at the bike night, like our little clique, I guess you'd call it, of just, all of our like-minded, like I said, we were all getting to be really close friends to where we're, we're not trying to sell anything to each other. We're just like, man, I just want to go hang out with these guys.
Yeah. When that's talking to the people on the West Coast, you got Dynas in every corner tucked away out there. Everybody's got one. And I think that's something special that we have here is, there's no club. It's just us getting together, doing what we want to do and planning things and just getting together because we want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And talking about like our little bullshit Google chat, you know what I mean? It's really cool that it's fucking Thursday night. Hey, I'm out in this area. Anybody out?
Yeah.
It's Saturday. Hey, I'm out. Fucking anybody want to get breakfast or something like that? So it's not like any elaborate amount of planning to go into. Just, hey, I'm going out. Anybody else want to join? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's really what riding with other people's about. You don't have to put a whole lot of effort into it. There's no big plans. There's no commitment.
It shouldn't be a job. It should just be, an extenuation of
and if you can't make it, you can't make it. If you can, like, hey, I'll meet up with you at this time. I can't make it in the morning. I can do the evening. Well, I can't do the evening. Well, I can't. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's just chatting. I really like that. Some of the help with parts, the help with mechanics, you know what I mean? Like, we all invest so much money into this, and knowing what you can read on the internet isn't always 100% true. And being able to see you bought a seat and I bought a seat and we compare them, you know what I mean? Like, everybody else gets judgment off there. They get to sit on it. There's so many things like that help us out, that we're taking every dollar we have to dump into these things, and it's just eating it up. To not waste any of that is so valuable.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I agree.
And then some of the, we got guys in here. You got you as a painter. You got some of the other guys that are legit mechanics at the shops and stuff like that, to get someone to pick their brain.
Yeah, we got, what was it? Kyle works at fucking Tucker Rocky. And
yeah.
You got a body man right here,
So many people that are in one way or another are in the business that help out. So, we're all tearing stuff down in our garage and trying to fix things, and being able to post something on there and be like, hey, I just came up on this issue. Anybody have any help?
Yeah, like this weekend, fucking two of the guys from the meet came out and helped me put together the Dyna.
Right.
Matt was here yesterday helping out, and he's here today to help out again. And it's just like I said, you get to a point where, like I was saying earlier, like you get to where you build this group of people, and they just, because of the glue, which is the Dyna or the FXR, that performance bike, or the Uber ride, depending on how you want to look at it, you build like a strong bond with a lot of people, and and I think that's good. It's not like, hey, dude, we're starting a bike club, man.
Right.
We all gotta wear patches. You have to do this. You have to do that. No, we just create events based on like, hey, it's just always gonna happen.
Yeah.
You want to come, cool. If you're not in town, can't make it, cool. And like what y'all are doing, like setting up another night for the week on the other side of town, it's perfect. Like when I get a bike, I'll probably go to the other side of town too. The Uber, it's too expensive to go.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, But yeah, I want to do another trip. I got to take some kind of trip this year. Something small.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm done for this year, but definitely that's got my interest. You know, is peak for next year is picking out a date with everybody, and then picking out like a destination, and really setting that time aside, because you know your bike's set up for in town. You're gonna make that mileage. You really got to start looking at some of those big ticket items that you need to take care of, so we're not all stuck on the side of the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of the gear, like I was talking about, you know, researching some of the stuff that you want to take, figuring out how you're gonna pack all that stuff. What do you need? What don't you need? For somebody that has to take one of those trips, you know, there's a little bit of thought. I mean, and some people are fucking crazy. They'll just strap something onto their bike and they'll fucking blast out and deal with it.
I mean, the first time I went to Giddy Up and I was hanging out down there, and so many dudes just showed up with a bike and nothing. And they just would sleep on their boots on the grass. I'm like, damn, dude, like, I wish I was that fucking hardcore.
Right. I'm too much of a princess. I can't do that. I need my sparkling water and my fucking baby wipes. You know, it's all about that. I want to live some type of comfort.
Yeah, exactly. Well, shit, anything else, man?
I think I'm good, man.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming out.
No worries.
Fuck. Here we go.